Good morning. We would welcome you to this morning to the Drainage District Board of Directors meeting for today, June the 26th, 2012. Present are Commissioners Palacios Precinct 2 and Palacios Precinct 4 and myself. We have a quorum. Any concerns? Anybody here sign up for open forum?
I have not been briefed of anybody signing up, Judge.
On our consent agenda, any concerns?
No concerns, Judge.
Move for approval. Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4,
Judge, Commissioners, under item 4, presentation by the Hidalgo County Drainage Advisory Committee on recommendations. We are coming before you after numerous months of planning and getting together with the advisory committee. Mr. Jim Darling is here to make a presentation and a letter of recommendation for the Commissioners Court or the Board of Directors consideration on future improvements to the drainage district system. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jim Darling, which is the co-chair of the committee. Mr. Darling.
Thank you. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
morning, sir.
On behalf of the Hidalgo County Drainage Advisory Committee, I want to thank the Commissioners Court for letting us have the opportunity to address you today. We've had a series of meetings, probably almost a dozen, I would guess, where we've had a majority of the members present, and we finally came up with a recommendation which we'd like to present to you today for your consideration as it relates to the drainage. We passed out to you a list of proposals, a list of estimated costs and projects along with the map where they are located. I think if you take a look at it, we addressed two main issues. One is to increase the efficiency of the existing system using this 1997 study and recommendations and obviously the history since 1997 in relationship to how the drainage system has functioned since then. And when I talk about efficiency, I'm talking about literally opening up and removing some of the blockage of the system where it's choked down from individual cities or areas from getting into the main system. And the reason for that is, if in the last history, at least the last 15 years, we had very few regional rainfalls. We've had many localized rainfalls. So if it's heavy rainfall emission, they're choked down and can't get into the system, even though there's capacity within the system to take that water. This proposal would eliminate some of those choke downs by allowing the drainage district to control those areas with gates so that we could recognize localized rains, increase the efficiencies of the existing system to address those particular concerns. It also increases the capacity because one of the recommendations is the Raymondville drain, which is the great bulk of the monies to be spent, which increases the overall capacity of the system as the ultimate outfall for the system. So taking those two things into consideration, we also looked at making sure that there was an equal participation in these benefits. So if you take a look at the map, you can see that the drainage projects are spread out through the drainage district where we think that everybody has a potential benefit from this in relationship to the political subdivision drainage processes within the individual cities and county precincts. So that was our proposal for you. You can see that the proposed price tag, and this is obviously a loose estimate of $168 million with $110 million of that coming from the Raymondville Drain project. And why that's important is because we understand that there's a potential for that to be a loan that's forgiven over the years. And so that all that requires is that the actual bonds be issued, voted on, authorized, but not issued as it relates to that loan program.
Is that a definite understanding that it will be forgiven, the $100 million?
Basically, that is tied into the WRDA Act, Judge, in which the federal government does a 90-10 matching with the project. So the application of the Water Development Board is being paid back through the money coming in from the WRDA program. That's why we call it a forgiveness. It's to be a zero interest loan, and then that'll be paid back with federal money coming into it.
So we would, in effect, be out there borrowing $168 million, but $100 million of that, sir?
you would be getting it authorized. You wouldn't necessarily have to actually borrow that 110 million, but in case there was a requirement on a loan, it would be authorized, and then you could issue the debt to pay off that loan amount.
This will be in the form of a referendum, and the referendum will involve a vote on 168.
Yes, sir, just
Really?
like a regular bond issue, and so that the money will actually be authorized by the voter, but at least on $100 million, not actually issued by the county unless required by the federal government.
So it's important that the voters understand that we're only going to be responsible for paying back 68 million out of the 168.
That's correct.
All right. And of course, you've identified the need, and
Right.
but we, on behalf of the court and the county, we certainly want to thank you and the other 24 members of your advisory committee for all of the work that you have voluntarily been involved in doing. And, I for one, and I know that members of the court want to sincerely thank you for your efforts.
Okay, Judge, and I forgot one other thing. We've established a subcommittee of a financial subcommittee and a communication subcommittee. The financial subcommittee met, but we understand that First Southwest, who's your financial advisor, will be presenting the actual estimate of numbers for interest rates and tax rate, et cetera, to the court at a later time. We also have a communication subcommittee that will be an ongoing subcommittee depending on the action of the Commissioners Court to cooperate in getting the message out to voters as it relates to that. We understand there's limitation on what the county can use monies for political advertising. This communication committee would augment that effort. And lastly, I might say that two of the projects that were a concern to the Drainage Committee, the Penitas Lateral and the East Lateral, actually were funded by the county through grant funds and are not part of this because they've already been accounted for as it relates to that. And the last thing I might point out is there is a thing in here called the Rural Drainage Development Program. That's money that relates to primarily to the Colonias drainage situation. And there's not only a direct amount, but also a potential contingency amount that the committee recommended that you consider.
All right.
Otherwise, thank you very much.
This includes the drainage district.
Oh,
The drainage district, does that include the whole county or what areas?
no, the drainage district, the recommendation was that the drainage district remain with the same boundaries, which is primarily leaves out the western part of the county. As you can see the line, I think it goes north or west of La Jolla. East of La Jolla, as you can see right here where the yellow is east of La Jolla, and cuts out some of the northern part of the county. South of San Manuel.
The area in blue?
It includes, if you take a look at that map, it's the yellow line.
Oh, I see it.
The yellow line runs east of La Jolla, then runs north. It's about probably a sixth or fifth of the northern part of the county is not included. I did forget to mention one of the other recommendations of the committee was that the Commissioners Court consider the Delta Area Water Reclamation Project as part of a potential bond issue. It's not in the $168 million, but we were requested by the Delta area to ask the Commissioners Court to consider that, and we asked you to consider it's not a recommendation that it be included, but we would respectfully ask the Commissioners Court to consider
And
it.
if we were to favor that, would the 168 go up by what, 14 million?
Well, my understanding, the whole project's close to 70 million,
The whole project is about $80 million.
but I think initially it would be seed money in this to do the necessarily engineering work and those kind of things to consider it from a feasibility standpoint.
But is there a figure?
They were looking at about $5 to $10 million to help it get started while they move the program forward.
Okay.
Recommendation, excuse me, recommendation for the committee includes the same boundaries, you say?
The recommendation is that, yes, not to amend the boundaries, but to maintain the existing boundaries of the
Any
drainage.
particular reason for not including the whole?
Right.
Got me. Any particular reason for holding the boundaries?
We considered that early on, of increasing the boundary to make it countywide, and After discussion of the committee on the pros and cons of combining that process along with the potential bond election, the vote of the committee recommendation was to maintain the drainage district boundaries as they presently exist.
What are we looking at as far as percentage-wise, the money that would really come in from that part of the county to help out in payment of this bond?
Yeah, I think that was one of the considerations was if you take a look at it, it was, and since it was not included in the beginning, that the potential contribution from that area did not outweigh the potential cost of the
That's what I'm trying to get you to explain, because, when you first look at it, it doesn't seem fair that certain areas of our county that are going to benefit from this drainage project are not going to be involved in paying any of it back. But when you start looking at as I understand the committee did, start looking at the politics of getting him to become a part of the drainage district, there's going to require an additional referendum. When you were talking, and I don't remember the percentages that we discussed or that you made us aware of, that they only bring in a very small percentage of the total revenues coming in from the tax base.
Right. And that was the basis for the decision. It was really from an economic standpoint. It didn't make sense to take on that burden and also the referendum issues that would relate to that.
Okay.
How much of a problem do they contribute to the whole drainage operation?
Well, part of if you take a look at the drainage district, you have the Mission Ridge South, which is a completely different drainage basin, if you will, from Mission Ridge North, which goes through the Raymondville process. And my understanding that's a relatively isolated situation because it does drain south and it doesn't come through the other areas. So it primarily affects that area in the west without necessarily contributing to the watershed to the east.
Mr. Darling is correct, Judge, Commissioner. Basically, the western side of Hidalgo flows down into the riverside itself through its sheet flow. The northern part of Hidalgo County is mostly agricultural area and it's ag exempt. So what's been hitting our system much harder is the urbanization of getting water off of pavement quicker. The northern part is mostly pasture and ag area. So basically, the sheet flows of that area move more in a northeasterly direction that will be intercepted by the Raymondville drain before they get into the urbanized areas. And Mr. Darling is correct. We had Mr. Steve Crane from Atlas Hall present the logistics of how the district could expand through a referendum. We also went through the exercise of getting the tax base outside of the district and evaluated that tax base coming into the district and the ag exemption that they would get coming into the district. And basically, it would be less than $200,000, if that much, would be generated by the annexation of that rural area into our program. It might be a feasible item in the future once the county continues growing in the northern area, but right now it's mostly ag exempt way out there in the area. We've got a lot of area still within the district, especially on the northwestern side, for future development at this time.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Judge, go ahead.
On the improvements that you have given us, you've listed on the map 1 through 21, I believe. And these are going to be the projects that are going to be worked on with this $168 million?
Yes, sir.
And none of them are located outside the district as it presently exists?
That's correct.
Except for the Raymondville drain that crosses the county lines.
Right.
Mine's a simple question. Is the impact to the taxpayer, assuming that the referendum comes in November, what should the average taxpayer expect on the impact of a new referendum, new issuance?
We talked to First Southwest yesterday. They're going to make a presentation to the Commissioners Court probably next week or whenever you have your workshop. And they were reluctant to give us a number until actually Ann Berger got back in town and confirmed some of the numbers. And so we talked to them yesterday, hoping that we could give you that number today, but they will give that to you.
Okay, on the 21 projects, another question was the ones that the committee has, and mind you, excellent job that the committee has done. I share the same sentiments that the judges expressed, that you've all worked very diligently on making sure it was comprehensive and objective, as well as to include the colonias, or percentage going to the colonias. And my question is, any of these projects on previous bond issuances?
The Raymondville drain was on a previous bond issuance on there, Commissioner. The rest of these projects were not.
So here's just a question. So we hired a firm to come represent, to try to work with the federals to try to get the monies back that was spent on the border wall. If in fact we are successful at bringing in some of that funding, where's that funding going to? I guess would be a question that I would have.
And Judge, I mean, Commissioners, my position on that, as the federal money comes back in, maybe some of these bonds have not been sold by that time and thus not have to sell those bonds. As long as the money that comes back in through bond council allows us to utilize it on projects that we have delineated. So the issue of money coming in prior to selling the bonds would offset any cost that we would have to sell.
Right, and I'm just mentioning because as we prepare for the referendum, the general public's going to know what they did the last time. They're going to remember. They're also going to remember what we did with the border wall and the efforts that the county's been making to try to get back some of that money. We just went from a community. I do endorse the communications aspect because it's a lot of variables in this issue, in this next referendum, and we want to make sure the general public does understand the full complexity of, one, how it's going to affect them, and what we're doing to try to prevent from having to spend more if we can do that.
Yes, sir.
Well, certainly want to thank you. In my opinion, this is the number one infrastructure issue that's facing our county. We need to take care of about, $35 billion of appraised values, of property values in our county. And we've been very fortunate. We haven't been hit by another Beulah in quite some time, but, we can no longer just be depending on sheer luck. But thank you for the work that you have done. I think it really shows the quality of it.
Thank you, Judge. I'll communicate that to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is item 5.
Judge, I've happened to misplace my agenda
It's
at the
a
moment.
presentation and discussion by Hollis, Rutledge, and Associates on the recapturing of funds through federal and state agencies and other sources.
Judge, as requested by the Commissioners Court, we have talked to Mr. Hollis Rutledge to come and give a briefing to the board regarding the services that the district is retaining from them on the recapturing of the money that has been spent by the district on the levy issue, or the border wall is more clearly referred to by y'all. We do have Mr. Hollis Rutledge here with some information on where that process stands. As you requested, he is here to answer any questions y'all might have. Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Godfrey. Judge, members of the commission, I've handed out to you something that we just got late Friday. Judge, if you recall, we had been communicating with Senator Cornyn, who actually issued a letter to Hillary Clinton on May the 1st, and we're anticipating a response relative to whether or not the Secretary of State could indeed issue a directive through policy of any existing authorities that the department may have to allow for IBWC, which is a component of the Secretary of State's office, to reimburse state and local entities from appropriated funds. Attached to my memo is the actual response that was received by the Senator's office that was shared with us late Friday. You were not privy of it, Judge, when we met 2 weeks ago, but this is the actual response. And I guess the memo that I've attached to these letters are self-explanatory. The issue here, quite frankly, is that the Senator's request from the Secretary of State's office that they review the existing authorities held by the department and the IBWC to reimburse state and local entities from appropriated funds, and also to provide an assessment of what options currently exist that would allow for reimbursement of local communities, was not answered in the letter. I felt it would be necessary for both of you, all of you, to have both letters. And if you can actually interpret it any which way you wish. My take on the response, Judge, members of the commission, is basically they're saying they could pay if there had been some appropriations tacked on to the IBWC budget. It also could mean that the county had actually, which we already know, committed the federal government without any appropriations being issued, and therefore they couldn't and cannot reimburse local governments. And then the letter concludes in the response by mentioning the ARA, the Stimulus Act of 2009, citing that there was some monies there that were appropriated and expended for the Rio Grande Valley. I'm not so sure what that means. We've discussed it with the senator's staff through a conference call that we had with them on Friday and again on Monday. They're presently in communication with the Public Affairs, Legislative Affairs Office at the Secretary of State's office in Washington as we speak, to try to get some clarification, especially as it relates to why they did not specifically answer the senator's request relative to authorities that could have been issued by the department to IBWC to actually reimburse. If you recall, part of our responsibility on your behalf was to try to do a legislative approach, which is what we're doing, and I'll give you an update on that, and also an administrative fix if we could find one. This is what prompted us to visit with the senator's office. And if you recall, back in late April, Judge and Commissioner Palacios, you met with, through teleconference in the senator's office in Harlingen with Senator Cornyn, which committed to assist the Drainage District to try to do two things. Seek some administrative remedies, of which this is part of, and two, try to also assist in a legislative remedy, which is what he did by introducing the companion bill that Congressman Hinojosa introduced a little over a year ago on the House side, and has gotten the two readings and has been referred to the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Senate. This is the first of an effort to try to get some clarity on the administrative end of the issue, to see if we could avoid a legislative process that could take quite a bit of long time in order to get IBWC's authority to reimburse. I don't know what to make of it, Judge, but we're in communication with the Senator's office. The Senator's office, as we speak, as I mentioned, is in communication with the Secretary of State's office to determine exactly why they didn't answer the specific pointed question that is concluded in the letter as you have it from the Senator asking the Secretary of State to clarify whether or not they can administratively have an authority to issue IBWC the ability to reimburse us. But I thought I'd wanted to share that with you because this just happened.
Well, where do you see us? I mean, let's talk about the administrative fix. What's your opinion there?
Judge, to be honest with you, at this juncture, your guess is as good as mine. We were hoping that we would have gotten a more direct answer through the Senator's office. Obviously, the Senator was very explicit, very specific, yet it was not really directly answered. Consequently, that's what prompted us to visit with and having a conference call with the Senator's staff, and they are, as we speak, attempting to visit and actually go to the Secretary of State's office, if need be, to try to get a better clarification. They have indicated that they probably is going to get back to us here in short order to determine what course of action, if any, we should take.
Were you ever able to determine what the authority of the Secretary of State is? I mean, does she have that ability legally? Is she authorized to be able to just sign a letter saying, give the money to Hidalgo County, or what
Judges-
steps are needed?
Right, as we've discussed with you over a period of time, we were seeking that through the Senator's office by way of his corresponding with the Secretary of State. This, of course, is the result of that effort. It's not over, and we're trying to get a clarification. The only other
Well, you're not going to
option...
get one by waiting for either the Senator or the Secretary of State for them to hire a lawyer to go in there and do the research that's needed to be able to tell them you're authorized or you're not authorized by a particular section of the federal code.
That certainly is an option, Judge. As I mentioned to you in a previous memo, we wanted to wait to see what responses we would get as a result of the letter. We've gotten it, but certainly that is an option on the table for consideration.
And then we discussed this and we talked about the issue of how do we go about hiring this law firm and who should pay for it? Should it come out of what you're getting paid, or should it be additional dollars from the county or the drainage district? And at that time, I believe you stated that you didn't feel it was, well, I don't want to speak for you. I'm going to let you tell us.
Yeah. Well, as we spoke on several occasions, Judge, because we're not attorneys, we're not equipped for that it would be outside the scope of work that we actually have under contract. But that does not prohibit this board, this commission, to also exercise that option if you so desire as a separate line item.
I just don't see how you can be effective if you don't know where to hit, where to go, what to do.
Precisely the very reason why we wanted to take the Senator's lead, which he committed to you personally in that video conferencing when he mentioned to you and Commissioner Palacios that he wanted to personally undertake that effort. So we were waiting to see what responses he was going to get. We now have it. They're still working on that issue as we speak, and we wanted to give them the opportunity to try to decipher fact from fiction as to whether the Secretary of State does have that authority. So until that is determined through this effort, I didn't know what other option we could exercise other than the option and recommendation that you and I discussed, which is an option that's on the table.
Yeah, I'm thinking about hiring a law firm in Washington to lay out the ground rules, to lay out what the law is, what authorities these individuals and these committees have.
Yes, sir.
And until we do that, we're just going to be floundering. We're just going to be sitting back and hope something happens.
Yeah. And as I said, that certainly is an option. That's a very good option. But
Hold on, Mr. Rudley.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Palacios.
Would the senator or congressman in Hinojosa be able to get us that information without having to hiring somebody else to do it?
precisely this was part of the objective, Commissioner Palacios. This was part of that objective because the senator personally committed to do the administrative fix agenda on your behalf, as well as a legislative agenda on your behalf at the video conferencing that we had with him in late April. So we wanted to allow for the senator in this particular case to give him the time that would be required to be able to try to answer this very question.
The question was about Congressman Hinojosa, not Senator.
Yeah.
Have you
And
visited with the Congressman?
we've not visited with the congressman specifically about this. We have mentioned it to the legislative staff because from the very beginning, we told them we wanted to seek not only an administrative fix, but also a legislative fix. But in this particular case, the senator mentioned and offered up to do this first. So we wanted to allow him that opportunity.
But what efforts have you made towards getting us that information? I mean, we've been working on it since October, November of last year. And do we now know, or we have any idea of what the steps are that need to be taken?
We do know this. We do know that there is a possibility that there is could be an administrative remedy, but we wanted to have the senator the opportunity to seek that out for us. Let's face it, I mean, if we can't rely on a United States senator to try to get us that information, that, I don't know what else we could have done other than determine what steps we would take in the event that the senator was unable to get us the answer that we
But
want.
this is the only issue this is not the only issue he has on the table. We've got a very limited window. If Secretary Clinton is going to be able to help, she's going to be gone at the end of this year.
Precisely.
So we've got to do something, be more proactive in trying to make her aware as to what her authority is, and hopefully she'll be convinced that she needs to help.
Precisely.
But
And
somebody needs to do the research so that they can tell her.
I understand that. And that's one of the reasons why after we left your office 2 weeks ago, that we were in hot pursuit of trying to get the senator's attention with his staff to try to get a response. We now have it. They, again, I repeat, are in communication with the Secretary of State's office as we speak to try to get a better feel for his question that he posed originally on May 1st. But that does not preclude you from exercising this other option that you and I had discussed.
Which is for the county to come up with the resources to hire somebody like Bert Pena or
Precisely.
some law firm in Washington that
Sure.
will be able to do that research.
Simultaneously, as we wait to see what results we get from the...
What efforts have you made towards getting us a legislative fix?
We have, as we discussed in our meetings and has been articulated in our detailed reports that we issue monthly, we also have an executive summation that we handed down to you along with that letter.
Have you laid out what the committees are that need to be
Correct.
convinced?
Yes, and that is in your possession. At the present time, the senator, as he mentioned to you in late April, was going to go ahead and introduce a companion bill to that of Congressman Hinojosa. In early May, he did that. He filed it. There's been 2 readings on his bill on the Senate side, and then has now been referred to the Foreign Affairs Committee. On the House side, we talked to Congressman Hinojosa's staff, legislative staff, principally Ed Hill, and he is of the opinion that because of the situation at hand with a presidential election and the way Congress is presently focusing on other issues other than our own, that he feels that it might be the appropriate course of action would be, as was, by the way, answered and commented by Senator Cornyn, to introduce an amendment to a bill germane to the subject during the lame duck session. The congressman's office is actually entertaining that idea as well on the House side, besides the standalone bill that we now have on both the House and Senate. The senator's office is already focused on doing that from the very beginning, since he mentioned it to you, Judge, and to you, Commissioner Palacios. He's already doing that and is focused on that lame duck session. During the lame duck session, there's no requirement for a hearing on the legislation, because it would actually be offered up as an amendment to a germane piece of legislation. And they both feel that that would be our best bet at the present time before the end of the year.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. By the way, there had been some discussion with, I think, with Mr. Godfrey and Mr. Bert Pena, if you wish to discuss it with Mr. Godfrey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Judge, as you requested, I did make contact with Mr. Bert Peña, and he was going to follow up in submitting some type of letter with a proposed cost associated with obtaining that legal information you requested. And once that comes to us, we will bring that back to the board for their consideration.
All right. Thank you, sir. Before we proceed,
Yes, sir.
I would like to, at this time, if the court will allow me, recess our drainage district meeting and take up item number 6C, which is a resolution in honor of the Edinburgh School District for achievement in the 2012 Excellence in Education Awards.
Make a motion to recess.
Can I have a second? Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, at this time, we're going to be convening our regular Hidalgo County Commissioners Court meeting for today, June the 26th, 2012, and we're going to be proceeding directly to item 6C.
Judge, first we do roll call.
Well, the roll call is Commissioners Palacios Precinct 2, Palacios Precinct 4, and myself. We have a quorum. Item 6C. Go ahead.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Karina Cardoza with the Public Affairs Division. We're very excited to have with us the representatives from Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District, and I'd like to ask them to come up at this time. I'm going to recognize their names. The reason we're here today is to honor several members of the Edinburgh School District and the school district itself for being recognized with the HEB's 2012 Excellence in Education Awards. The Edinburgh Consolidated School District was named a finalist, as well as a principal elementary from, elementary principal Arnoldo Benavides from Freddy Gonzalez Elementary. He was also named a finalist. And we are very excited to report that Edinburgh North Principal Ramiro Guerra was actually a winner. He was named the 2012 Principal of the Year in one of the categories. So if I would like to recognize, we have the board president, Ms. Carmen Gonzalez. We have the superintendent, Dr. Rene Gutierrez, assistant superintendent, Maria Luisa Guerra, assistant superintendent, Rebecca Morrison, and area directors from the school district, Hector Gonzalez and Domingo Vela. And the honorees, as I mentioned, are Principal Ramiro Guerra from Edinburgh North High School for winning the Excellence in Education State Award. And we have Mr. Principal Arnoldo Benavides from Freddy Gonzalez Elementary, and he was named a finalist, as I mentioned. Edinburgh CISD, as I mentioned, was named a finalist as well. We also have here with us the HEB Public Relations Director, Ms. Linda Tovar, and she'll say a few words. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Superintendent, Dr. Rene Gutierrez, to say a few words about this recognition, and then I would like to ask Ms. Tovar to say a few words, and then we have a resolution.
Good morning, Dr. Gutierrez.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here. First of all, I'd like to thank HEB for recognizing outstanding educators throughout the state. And in Edinburgh CISD, we're proud that two of our principals were selected as finalists, Mr. Arnoldo Benavides for elementary and Mr. Ramiro Guerra for secondary education. Mr. Guerra took the top prize, and he was elected as a top secondary principal in our state. So congratulations to Mr. Guerra and to Mr. Benavides. Our school district was also selected as a finalist, and I want to thank the school board, and Ms. Carmen Gonzalez, our board president, is here representing our board. But I want to thank our school board for the support that we have from our school board. In Edinburgh CISD, we have great schools, and part of that is because of our school board that supports our administration, our administrators, our teachers, as well as our students. But I also want to thank all of you, the county, because part of the criteria for being selected as one of the top school districts in the state by HEB is because of our partnerships. And Edinburgh CISD has excellent partnerships with the city of Edinburgh as well as with the county. So I also want to thank you for being partners with us for the betterment of our youth. So thank you so much to all of you, as well as to our city council and our mayor, because together we are working together for the betterment of our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Well, thank you for inviting us here today. I'm Linda Tovar, HEB Public Affairs Director. I am
Welcome.
so honored to be here, actually being born and raised here in the Valley. I am so proud that HEB has honored, Edinburgh ISD School District with such a great awards program. I'm proud to say that these are the educators that are making the difference in our children's life, and they are building our future. So I am so proud to represent HEB, and I want to thank Edinburgh ISD School District and all of you for being here today, and continue the hard work. And this is one of our biggest monetary programs that we do have for educators, and we'd love to spotlight all the great things that they're doing. So thank you for having us today, and let's give them a huge round of applause for the great things that they do every single day.
And if I may read the resolution so we can hear a little bit about the awards themselves. Resolution, it reads, Resolution in honor of Edinburgh CISD for achievements in HEB's 2012 Excellence in Education Awards. Whereas since 2002, the HEB Excellence in Education Awards celebrates public school professionals whose leadership and dedication inspire a love of learning in students of all backgrounds and abilities. And whereas more than $600,000 in cash prizes are awarded each year to deserving teachers, principals, and school districts, the HEB Excellence in Education Awards is the largest monetary recognition program for educators in Texas and one of the largest in the nation. And whereas this year, Edinburgh CISD was recognized by the HEB Excellence in Education Awards. Ramiro Guerra, principal of Edinburgh North High School, was named the recipient of the Secondary School Principal Award, beating out about 4,000 nominations and winning him a $10,000 cash prize and a $25,000 grant for his school. Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District was named a finalist for the large district category, and Arnoldo Benavides, principal of Freddy Gonzalez Elementary, was named a regional finalist for the Border Region Elementary School Principal category. And whereas Edinburgh CISD has 32 campuses who received a combined total of 135 TEA Gold Performance Acknowledgement Awards for high academic performance, 15 campuses named high-performing schools in Texas for 2011 by the National Center for Educational Achievement, and 4 campuses who earned the Texas Business Education Coalition for sustained academic excellence. And whereas the City of Edinburgh is a closely knit community which strongly emphasizes the value of providing a good education. The Edinburgh Independent School District encompasses 945 square miles and makes it one of the largest in the nation. It offers 3 high schools, 5 middle schools, 27 elementary schools, and 1 alternative campus. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court recognizes Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District, Edinburgh North High School Principal Ramiro Guerra, and Freddy Gonzalez Elementary Principal Arnoldo Benavides for their outstanding dedication and commitment to the students, parents, and community of Edinburgh and the County of Hidalgo. Approve this 26th day of June, 2012.
So move.
Check.
And those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
At this time, I would like to ask the principals, Mr. Guerra, if he would like to say a few words. Mr. Benavides, Arnoldo Benavides.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. Benavides.
First, I would like to thank God for the wisdom, knowledge, and the many blessings and opportunities He has placed before me. I give thanks to my first grade teachers, my mom and dad, Eva and Tomas Benavides, and to my wife and family that have always been a part of my life and its successes. To the many administrators, teachers, students, parents, and friends that have contributed to my success, I thank them. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to receive this recognition that represents the culminating results of a group of very distinguished educators, the Freddy team, who like me are always striving for excellence. I thank them for all they do for our leaders of tomorrow, our students. I would also like to thank the Edinburgh School District for allowing me to be a member of their great organization. I thank them for believing in me and for allowing me to share my vision of giving every child a fair opportunity to succeed. I would also like to thank HEB for their generosity in recognizing the many educators throughout the state of Texas in their Excellence in Education Awards program. God bless the organization, and may they continue to be supportive of what we do in education for the many boys and girls that we impact on a daily basis. In behalf of Freddy Gonzalez Elementary and the Freddy team, we thank you for your generosity in recognizing us. Mil gracias.
Good morning, County Judge Mr. Ramon Garcia and Commissioners Court.
Good morning, Mr. Guerra.
Let me start by saying that for me, it's an honor to represent Edinburgh North High School, to represent the Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District, as well as Edinburgh, and the Rio Grande Valley as an administrator. I'd like to thank HEB. HEB steps up when it comes to honoring education for the noble profession that it is. It was inspiring to see the president and CEO, Mr. Charles Butt of HEB, and his knowledge of education. And I'd like to thank them on behalf of our students and staff at North High School. Lastly, on behalf of my family, myself and my family, and everyone at Edinburgh North High School, I would like to thank the, again, Judge and Commissioners Court for taking the time to recognize us in education. As I mentioned previously, it's a noble profession, and there's many, many people out there that deserve this honor. And again, we thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. If we can have a picture.
Before we do that, I wanted to recognize the chairman of the Edinburgh Consolidated Independent School District Board of Trustees, who's here with us, Carmen Gonzalez. I don't know if you want to say anything, but you certainly have the right to do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. And this morning is just an example of the many, many things that the Edinburgh School District and this community is committed to, which is always, always thinking of boys and girls first. We have a great community that works very well together, and I think it speaks well when the whole state of Texas has looked at Edinburgh and has selected two of our outstanding principals to be a model for the rest of the state of Texas. That speaks volumes for who we are in Edinburgh, and we're very proud to be part of the Edinburgh School District and this community. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you. You want a picture, sure? No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to switch. Just when it's gonna be minimized, but once it's gonna be like this. But once you come up, just come up F5, and then just you can use. Appreciate your help.
I'll take that, David. All right, we're going to be, after that short recess, we're going to be reconvening our County Commissioners Court meeting to take up one other item, or maybe two items. This next one is item 6B. We have one of our county commissioner colleagues from Cameron County here with us today, Mr. David Garza. And the issue is approval of a resolution in support of the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority's South Padre Island Second Access Project and recommended alternative. Good morning.
Good morning,
Mr.
Judge, Commissioners. How are you this morning?
Thank you,
It's
sir.
great to follow Edinburgh ISD. You know, that is great news. You know, when we have our local districts doing so well, you know, it's a great
That is-
feeling for all of us.
That is very true. Very, very, very good news.
Yeah, and then you have Cupcake Wars winners also, Food Network Cupcake Wars. You know, we all saw the news. You know, congratulations.
We need to bring him in here to
Yeah,
honor
to
them and bring
Sabrina
cupcakes.
Rodriguez and that group, you know, it's great. But we're here on a more serious note, you know, and it's hopefully to get your support, Judge and Commissioners, on a resolution. Cameron County got the RMA group together in 2005. One of the projects, a major piece of the projects that we're working on is the second access to South Padre Island, which TxDOT handed over, and I'm going to ask Mario Jorge and David Garcia, they're right here with me, to join me. The county took the leadership role in the second access project for South Padre Island. I know many of you visit that area. The congestion on Highway 100 is steadily growing. We are looking and hoping for improved access, safety in getting there, and of course, economic development for the northern part of the island and that particular area. To date, South Padre Island has about almost 20% of the value of Cameron County sitting between a 3-mile city limit sign on South Padre Island. This project could potentially open that area to develop into something 3 times as large as that. The draft environmental document has been approved. We've worked with many different agencies, of course, most particularly with TxDOT in trying to get this done. We are now at the point where we're going to have our public meeting on the 17th of July. We wish to invite each and every one of you to join us for that meeting so that you can get the details of the project. But today we ask for your support. This is a regional project. This is a project that impacts all of the valley. This is a project that impacts all of South Texas. And this is a project that impacts the traveling public, most importantly, regardless of where they're from, whether it's Mexico or the States. We're asking for you to show us the support and help us move this project. You know, we've had a lot of success in our county with the Regional Mobility Authority. We've had a numerous group of projects that have already been done. We have a lot of them that are in progress right now. And this project is a project that is a CDA project, which is one of those that has been exempted from the process with TxDOT, where we can have a public partner privateship, which means that we can have private investors come into this project and look at it. We've done some preliminary market analysis work on this, and it looks very promising for us. The environmental was the biggest challenge. There's over 15 different governmental agencies that have reviewed the document. They've all agreed and come to consensus on the draft piece of it. We look forward to continuing the environmental process in making sure that we're very good stewards of our environment in that area, which is very sensitive. So if you have any particular questions, I'd like to invite David Garcia, who is our assistant county administrator and also the assistant director of our RMA, and Mario Jorge, and hopefully they'll add a few words to what I've said, and then maybe we can answer some questions for you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. For the record, we have been joined by County Commissioner Precinct 1, Joel Quintanilla, and County Commissioner Precinct 3, Mr. Joe Flores.
Judge, County Commissioners, thank you for putting us on the agenda today. We have been, as Commissioner noted, seeking the support of all the entities in the Rio Grande Valley. In fact, last night we were in Mission and in McAllen, and they both support the project unanimously. We believe this is not a South Padre Island project, not a Cameron County project, but a regional Rio Grande Valley project, South Texas project. And, we have gone significant review. The project is about, the study is about a 1,700-page study. It's on our website at www.cameroncountyrma.org. It's 4 volumes, lengthy document, but there is an executive summary that you all can read if anybody wants to read that. Again, July 17th is our public hearing. We invite the public to come and to be a part of that public hearing to support the project or to provide any comments or concerns that they may have on the project. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mario. Jorge.
Thank you, David. Judge, Commissioners, good morning. For the record, I'm Mario Jorge, Texas District Engineer here in FAR.
Good morning, Mr. Jorge.
Yes, sir. Just to echo a little bit of what Commissioner Garza mentioned, this project has been developed in partnership between TxDOT, the RMA in Cameron County, and Cameron County itself. We've had tremendous public involvement over the past 3 years. It is a lengthy process, this environmental impact statement that we're in right now, but this next step that's taking place is a critical step in the approval of the draft environmental impact statement and a public hearing along those lines. There's still a whole lot of environmental challenges ahead of us as we continue to finalize the environmental impact statement. There's mitigation plans, permitting issues that all have to be addressed. But again, this is a very critical step. The one thing I want to just reiterate a little bit, one element of this project that is, I think, a key element for implementation is the ability of the RMA to enter into a CDA or a public-private partnership with a potential developer. That is the mechanism that we see that can deliver this project for the region. So again, we're very supportive. None of that can take place, obviously, until we get the environmental process completed. So we're working hard on it. It's been done every step of the way with us and the Federal Highway Administration. So again, thank you all for having us here and full support of this project. I appreciate that.
Judge or Commissioners, any questions that you might have in regards to where we're at? I will mention that this particular project is an over $400 million project, and it is one piece of our systems projects for Cameron County that the RMA and the county is working on. We have about $1.5 billion worth of projects that we're working on, probably $700 million in the process or have been done already. And many of those, including one that we're getting bids on today for, in particular, is backstopped by Cameron County itself. And by backstop, basically, is we're co-signing the note for them so that they can proceed with working the project out. So Commissioner's Court is totally behind the RMA and what they're doing. This project is a critical component for the future, not only of the valley, but of Cameron County. We've seen some preliminary studies that indicate that this second access could increase the number of jobs, the number of opportunities for folks to work, and of course the population of the northern part of Cameron County in the next 30 to 40 years to the tune of about 250,000 people. Okay, so it's a really critical piece for us. Hopefully that will connect through the outer loop or outer parkway to 77, which, if Commissioner Palacios here, we've already had some, in Quintanilla, we've had some meetings in regards to another piece that would connect from 281 on the northern end to Cameron County and allow for the safe and efficient, outer loop, yeah, the outer loop.
Where is it going to start? Laguna Vista?
It's going to start on Padre Island, South Padre Island on the northern end and come to the Holly Beach area. There's a preferred alternative that has already been mentioned in the document that has been proposed. There are some alternatives. If and when the comments are received on the 17th and changes need to occur, they will occur. Then that particular project will come to the Holly Beach area, which would connect to 510, and also General Brent Road, which would come into the Harlingen area, north of the airport. Okay?
I might just add that there is no set alignment, things can change, but there is a recommended preferred alternative that has been determined by the work that the consultants have done to date, which is the piece that we just mentioned. So once we have the public hearing on July 17th, once we take back the comments and the concerns of the public, I'm sure that the alignment will change somewhat. And so the purpose of the public hearing is to get the comments and to make those changes.
Before we vote on it, I know there's several people that I've been told want to speak either in favor of or against. I'm not sure if that's still the case. There's one. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Beth Barnes, and I'm with the Owls. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I am for this project, but I also don't want our tax dollars to go to that project. We have enough of our own projects going on over here that we just don't need to contribute there. I realize what it's going to do. I know it's a necessity. I worked on the island, so I know the problems that can occur. If you've ever been over there on a holiday weekend, or, God forbid, a hurricane, it's a mess. So I'm just more concerned with our tax dollars and not wanting them to go to projects away from our area right now.
There is no request for any assistance from our county tax dollars for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wanted to make a statement? All right.
It's a non-binding resolution, and we are asking for no money from you guys.
Yes.
Commissioner, if I may, Judge, I just wanted to share with you, Commissioner, that I did have the opportunity to meet with the director of TxDOT approximately about a week and a half ago to 2 weeks. And one thing that he did bring up was the RMAs from different counties, of course, from Cameron County and Hidalgo County, and the will of the county commissioners and working together. And the great job that the RMA boards have done is not only looking at their county projects, but making it a complete regional project. And he commended us for that as well. Mario, I did talk about you, Mario, and did tell me you were doing an excellent job, and he agreed. And basically, he's really excited about the Rio Grande Valley as a whole, and looks forward to working with us as well. So that's a definite positive note for us here as far as the RMA boards and the county commissioners courts, working together. So I commend you on your efforts, Commissioner. Keep up the great work.
All right, who's going to read the resolution? I'm not sure. Bobby?
I've got a copy of the resolution from Mr. Villarreal. Consideration and adoption of a resolution in support of the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority's South Padre Island Second Access Project and recommended alternative as identified in the draft environmental impact study. Whereas the Cameron County RMA's mission since its inception in 2005 is to promote safe and effective mobility, improve the quality of life for area residents, and to create quality economic development to attract job growth, all through a sustainable transportation network. And whereas in 2005, the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority became the lead project sponsor for the South Padre Island Second Access Project. And whereas since then, the CCRMA has been working in conjunction with the Texas Department of Transportation to submit a draft environmental impact statement to the respective federal and state cooperating agencies for review and further processing. And whereas the Cameron County RMA, through this DEIS process, has identified a recommended site or alternative on the northern end of South Padre Island, and whereas the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court recognizes the importance of a second access to South Padre Island as it will improve safety conditions, facilitate mobility and access for the traveling public during emergencies, promote tourism, and support economic development opportunities for our region. And whereas the Second Access Project will spur new development on South Padre Island with endless opportunities as it continues as a leading destination for local, state, national, and international visitors. And whereas Hidalgo County Commissioners Court believes that a second access to South Padre Island is critical to the future of our region, as many visitors from throughout the Rio Grande Valley and northern Mexico also travel there on any given day or weekend. And whereas the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court recognizes that the development of a project like the second access will have a tremendous positive economic impact on both job creation and economic growth to the South Texas region. And whereas the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court also recognizes the need to improve safety, access, and mobility for the traveling public leading to and from South Padre Island, now therefore be it resolved that the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court unanimously expresses its strong support to the CCRMA as it works to establish its preferred alternative and seek a record of decision for the South Padre Island Second Access Project.
Motion approved, Judge.
Second.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck on your project.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, in keeping with our policy of taking items involving our elected officials out of order, Mr. Garrett, are you here on a particular item? I'm sorry, sir, on what? What item is it? Do you know the number? 6B as in boy? Oh, and D as in dog, okay. All right, why don't we take that item at this time then?
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Michael Leo with the County Judge's Office. Item 6D, presentation and discussion regarding Hidalgo County's efforts to report final dispositions of cases for adult arrest recorded for the calendar years 2006 through 2010. Just a little background. Back in December, our office was notified by the Criminal Justice Division of the Governor's Office that effective September 1st in 2012, counties and entities within counties without a 90% completeness percentage will be ineligible to apply for new grants. Effective September 1st, 2013, counties and entities within counties without a 90% completeness percentage will be ineligible to receive grant funding. But now we will have a presentation here shortly that will explain what that means. When we received the notice, we reached out to the District Clerk's office and to Roy Cáceres from the DA's office, who is our contact as it relates to grants. He put us in touch with their IT specialist, Mr. Richard Wade. Mr. Wade has taken the initiative to spearhead this project, not just from the DA's office perspective, but from the county as a whole, and has kept us in constant communication with updates, progress, and milestones. At this time, with the court's permission, we would like to turn it over to Mr. Richard Wade.
Morning, Mr. Wade.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Mr. Eufrasio, Mr. Crane, good to see you folks this morning. I am back in the early part of December. I got an email from Claudia Wood, who's here this morning. Claudia Wood is with the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council and does a lot of the grant processing. And okay, thank you, sir. And so that email indicated that our county was in danger of losing significant grant funding if we did not come into 90% compliance by September of this year, CGIS grants, and by September of 2013, potentially every state and local grant across our county, not just in Hidalgo County, but for every entity, including school districts and other law enforcement agencies. To just give you a real quick rundown, the article, the Chapter 60 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure it deals with compliance and the proper reporting of criminal dispositions that originate with arrests by the arresting agencies as they're reported through our their DPS reporting system. There are several things that are required there. One is a timely reporting of those dispositions. The other is establishment of a local advisory board, which this court did back, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in October of 2009 under Ms. Handy's motion and acceptance by the court. And then the submission of a data reporting improvement plan document called the DRIP report and to DPS website. But that was only required if Hidalgo County was not in compliance at the time, which in 2009, the basis for that was that period ending in 2006, at which time we were. 92% compliant, and therefore that document would not have been required. So we got this letter just this past week, June 8th, from Angie Kendall. It was actually sent to Claudia Wood to verify that we were indeed qualified. We had met the requirements and did not need to file that document. That document, judges, is part of this, the document for Homeland Security funding that you would have to sign and fill out at the bottom of for emergency management funding. I think it's SAA made that document and requirement to have certain reporting compliance issues met, one of which was that document, the other would be 90%. So I will touch on that just a second. At the end of, in January 12th of this year, we were at 71% compliance. The figures are shown there, and you can see across the board, the percentages are pretty low. And so because I started in January, in December, I talked to Mr. Renan Ramirez. I talked to my boss, the district attorney, and I asked, since I had a bit of a head start, if they would mind if I would take responsibility for identifying the issues and bringing us into compliance. And I did so under Mr. Ramirez and the district attorney both, and this court, of course. So the things that led up to this, I just touched on that, so we'll pass on by. I did conference with people from Tyler Technologies, which is our legacy criminal justice management system, with Ursula Cook at DPS, with people in our county to find out what the critical issues were. And I began to download, after I got access to DPS's site, the necessary documentation to understand what the issues were. I identified 5 overall categories of problems, the first of which was law enforcement. In our county, we have some people who, some agencies that have their own live scan or identification equipment where they get their fingerprints, they're sent to DPS, and those people generate their own TRN, TRSs, which is the way that DPS tracks criminal cases. Now, when those folks are booked in at county jail, that TRN, TRS did not come through our able term system. And so we have linking issues. We've had linking issues for some time because of that. Used to be McAllen was the primary one that had that. Now McAllen stopped doing their own live scan. And we have other agencies, Mission, FAR, Mercedes, that are generating their own TRN, TRSs, Edinburgh PD. And so that has created some issues because if a lot of times when an officer arrests an individual, he'll kind of throw the book at him. He'll charge him with all kinds of things, and then when they actually get ready to do the documents to prepare the case to bring to the DA's office, the elements of the offense may not be there, and so they just don't bring them. And they don't remove those for non-prosecution or for reducing to a Class C misdemeanor. And so those kind of fall through the cracks. The other area was the prosecutor's office. Actually, there's no one that didn't have some issues in this matter. The prosecutor's office was using an improper disposition code, and that disposition code was actually prohibiting the clerk's offices from disposing of the cases properly. And there were some that were not mailed properly at the time they should. That means pressing a key in able term that electronically prepares it for uploading to DPS. The court's clerks had the same kind of issues. They were trained improperly and were not disposing completely within able term. And so we recognized there was a problem with training. County IT. County IT is responsible. They were doing a twice weekly upload and download from DPS, applying those to able term, and that process was flawed, both in frequency and also sometimes procedurally. They were kind of getting the cart before the horse and doing it the wrong way. So that needed to be addressed. The Texas DPS site also needed some things corrected. There were missing, we did not have any way, border counties are especially impacted by this, we had no way to deal with failure to appear. And so those cases just stay pending indefinitely. And now, thankfully, we have some of those codes. And they also, I'll show you in this next, let me get over to this one. Let me go back one here. That's all right, we'll go on. I've already touched on this, that this issue with the wrong codes that were giving us problems. The open arrest reports that I obtained from DPS were kind of filtered, and they were distributed to Gloria Guzman of our office if they needed prosecutor action, if they were felonies and needed a court action, to Adriana Garcia of the clerk's office, district clerk's office, and to Evelia Morales of the county clerk's office. And those people have just worked above and beyond to get these legacy cases, these from 2006 to 2010, into compliance. And so they've done, typically they've worked 4,000 to 5,000 cases for each of those years from 2006 to 2010. It's an amazing job. The reporting issues that the county was using, we needed to automate. And under the leadership of Mr. Ramirez, the CIO, Charles Graham, who is his programmer and developer, and I took the documentation from DPS that has to do with the uploading process. And Charles, kind of a brilliant young man, we're blessed to have him working in the county. He wrote a macro keyboard stroke. Some of you who've been around computers a long time know that the keyboard macros record things that you do on the computer. They were used in the old days, and some gamers use them today. But he developed a script that has fully automated our upload and download process. And we've gone from uploading and downloading twice a week, which was pretty much the state standard, to a daily upload and download, and the ability to completely audit those uploads and downloads. And so that was an excellent job of doing that. So we've changed the frequency to daily. I am personally auditing that document that you see there is the upload file, and I look at each one of these records, and there's typically 600 or 700 a day, and I scan through them to see what records we have that are being uploaded, being worked, and I also look at the return file. That's the file we get back from DPS that gets applied, and every one of those ER3 records that you see there, that is a prosecutor record. Every one of the ER4s is a court record. The ER2s and EHs are basically the ones that come from the sheriff's office or other law enforcement agencies that have the live scan. We made just some changes as far as auditing and monitoring. The CGIS reporting issues, one of the things that I found is that we had a file, the TRNS file in our AbleTerm system that held 40,000 records that it did not have state IDs or TRNs. And so a sync disk was obtained from DPS. That sync disk was applied by county IT, and multiple uploads were done until there were no more records to process. And this is a little excerpt there from the state auditor's report, which shows that DPS has had a problem with this throughout. So when those people send that booking information up to identify the person, they may not properly assign an SID or accept that TRN in the right way, so those end up kind of in a lost space, and we had over 40,000 records. That process of using the sync disk and applying it reduced that number to about 19,000, none of which are on an open arrest report. So that's pretty much, I'm going pretty fast here to try to finish this up. Back in possibly, I don't remember, it was late January, early February, we have a border prosecution unit, and Tom Krampitz is the director of that, and he asked Rand Booth of our office that's assigned to that task force to go to the governor's office with some others and meet concerning these failure to appear issues, because it represents quite a few cases for the border counties. And because of that meeting, there were new codes created by DPS, and those were available for use February 22nd. So basically, if you look on this magnitude of efforts made, the court's clerks have actually processed over 18,000 records since March, entering the dispositions for those and uploading them to DPS. Gloria Guzman of our office has processed over 800 cases to research those. That's a very tedious process, and forwarded the ones that did not have the cases brought to her office back to the original arresting agency. So where are we today? Let's get to the bottom line here, okay? Because that's what matters. This issue, according to Claudia, could very well mean to Hidalgo County and entities within Hidalgo County hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant monies. And it's the violence against women, McAllen PD, FAR PD. There are a number of agencies, Hidalgo County SO, CGIS funds. And some of those CGIS funds would have been affected September 1st. If we weren't in compliance, we would lose. Some of those are Homeland Security funds. Right now, first of all, we don't have to have a DRIP report, okay? That DRIP document is not required. The law says that if you weren't in compliance on that date, then you had to file one. But we were in compliance, so we don't need one. So we've met that requirement either way. Now, just out of an abundance of caution, I prepared a data reporting improvement plan as if it had been written back in 2010, because everything we would have included in 2010, we've addressed, implemented, dealt with for the future. So what we're doing on a daily basis in our court's office, in our prosecutor's office, is making it unnecessary to have to do this again in the future. We're taking care of it as it comes. Our current overall completion percentage, and that's the important value, as of Saturday when I did this, was 89.93% complete. We are just hundredths of a percentage point from being in total compliance across the board. And we're still right there this morning, but mainly because I had to travel yesterday and I couldn't give the folks that are working this new reports to process. But we are essentially in compliance, and because of that, we should not have any issues. If I could, I'd like to just recognize some key people here. Claudia Wood, who I wouldn't have known about this, and some of you wouldn't have known about this if she had not notified us by email and forwarding those documents to us that we're going to have a negative impact on us. Tiffany Wiley of Tyler Technologies. She's not here, but Tiffany Wiley is an expert in AbleTerm and CGIS reporting. It was immense help. Ursula Wood at DPS educated me a great deal. And Stacy Adams came and did training for our clerk's offices. All of you elected officials, I've been reporting to you, the county judge's office, to Mr. Eufrasio, to our sheriff's office. Everyone has just basically stepped up. FAR PD stepped up the first day nearly in this and said, what can we do to help? Renan Ramirez, of course, with county IT, I've kept him apprised, and he has given me the ability to work and let his people do things to get this fixed. Vivian Barrera and Charles Graham. Charles is the one that wrote this scripting automation. Vivian was manually doing this same process for years. For the last 10, 15 years, Vivian has been manually uploading and downloading twice a week after hours. Very tedious process. Gloria Guzman of our office is basically pretty much a CGIS reporting expert, in my opinion. She knows more about CGIS reporting than I'll ever know. Evelia Morales is, I've incorrectly identified her. She's actually the court manager, and she's here this morning, and she had about 3/5 of the cases to deal with. And she has led her staff to complete all that and has further asked now for the open arrest reports for 2011 and 2012. She wants to move on to the present, and so has Adriana Garcia, who's the chief deputy of the clerk's office. And they have just done an amazing job working above and beyond, in my opinion, to get these historical records brought up to date. So, and actually I think Claudia mentioned that because we've done this, that there's a good possibility, because Cameron County has not been able to get into compliance, and looks like they may not, that we will probably get some funding that was directed to them is going to come now to Hidalgo County. So that's a good thing. And so my wife's not here, but my sweetheart of 47 years nearly understands that I'm absolutely obsessive compulsive, and when I get a project, I'm crazy about getting it done. So I thank them, and I thank the court for allowing me to continue to serve Hidalgo County. I do so from Fort Worth. Some of you know that, some of you do not. but I've been doing that for the last 4 years, which puts me close to my family that I dearly missed, and at the same time enables me to serve this county, which I love, and my boss, who I've had the pleasure of serving for nearly 30 years. So I thank him. I thank all of y'all. Any questions, sirs?
Well, we certainly want to thank you for all of the work that you have done. I know we have some very qualified and competent people working in our county, but it takes someone like yourself to provide the leadership needed to get this project done, and done timely. Certainly do want to thank you.
Well, thank you, but believe me, they're the ones
Why
that had
don't
to
we,
sit and
why
look at
don't we
every
ask
case.
all these people that are here that you recognize to stand up and come forward and.
Gloria,
so we can-
Adriana, Evelia, Roy. If Roy Costas didn't keep my backside as far as an IT, I'm sole IT for county, for the DA's office. And Roy is my hands and eyes when I need something physical, and Roy keeps me funded too, so. So these, and Claudia for keeping us informed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wade, and thank all of you for all of the work that you do for this county.
Thank you. Did you give them theirs? Oh, did you?
All right, we're moving on to item number E, letter E, 6E. Discussion, consideration, and approval to renew guidelines and criteria for granting tax abatements in Hidalgo County. I'm going to take it out of order. I know we've had Keith and different people from throughout the county that are interested in this issue here to make a presentation.
Judge Commissioners, Bobby Villarreal with the County Judge's Office. About every 2 years, we have to update the guidelines and criteria for the tax abatements, and we're looking to renew them. No significant changes were made. Y'all have modified it a few times in the past few years in different circumstances when different occasions arrived. But I would ask for your approval.
Can you give us?
Yeah, tell us what it is that we're going to be voting on.
Essentially, it's the guidelines that we've always had. We have certain criteria for people that investors that want to come to our community to invest.
Can you explain the issue, though? I think you were telling me earlier that if an investor comes into the county and wants to invest $10 million.
Oh, yes.
And the appraisal district appraises that particular investment as $8 million.
Yeah, for instance, I think the auditor had an issue where he was wanting us to consider new appraised value rather than the capital investment that a company brought in. And for instance, there's a scenario, and I think Michael can show it to you. I put a scenario where if somebody made a capital investment of, say, $5 million and $1, that would meet the threshold of 50% abatement for a term of anywhere from 5 to 10 years, of course, at the discretion of the court. Now,
Michael.
if that new appraised value at the appraisal district for some reason came in at $4.5 million, I think the auditor was wanting to see if we could consider it at the lower threshold, which would be 25%. And if you look at it, we did the math, and if you went that way, it would be roughly about a $6,637 difference in taxes. But I think from the economic standpoint, it sends a mixed signal to investors that come to our area that we would penalize them, their good faith effort to bring jobs and economy to our area. And if you look at the example I put, that if that particular company in that instance had 20 new jobs at say 30,000, that would be approximately around, at about 500,000 a year, and over 5 years it'd be 2.5 million and roughly 5 million over 10 years. And so that would be my concern about going in that direction. I think we should continue as we are and consider capital investment as our way of doing things, because I think us squabbling over $6,000 of taxes where we have a better impact, direct and indirect, in our community where people get jobs and that sort of thing. And I think that is supported by the EDCs of the valley of Hidalgo County. And I think Keith and I have talked about it too, and he's in support of that issue as well.
I have to agree with you on that, Bobby.
Yeah.
Basically, that would be a formula that would work.
Yeah.
Because when you definitely promote economic development throughout Hidalgo County, and our families are earning monies and the job opportunities there, our tax base grows automatically.
It's a very competitive world now.
Yeah.
Things are not the same as they were 20, 30 years ago. If we don't compete with other communities from the north, we got to stay competitive with Bear and San Antonio and Houston, those types of places. And if we don't stay competitive, we'll fall behind. And in order to get our revenues at the county up, we have to have new jobs, and those people have to buy houses and buy commercial properties. And that's the only avenue that we get our new revenue here at the county, is that we have to entice people to come over, look at our people, and say we can do good business here, and then we can uplift our revenues here at the county, and then we can provide more service to our community. And that's my viewpoint, and that would be my recommendation on that particular item.
What do you think, Judge?
No, I think it's important that we acknowledge the fact that we're interested in attracting businesses to our county, and if we're telling them, if you invest $5 million, we're going to provide you with a tax abatement for a certain period of time, then if they invest the $5 million, we ought to do it, and not then later on wait and see what the appraisal district values that investment at. If they can prove to us that they invested the $5 million, they ought to get the benefit of it.
And of course, we would only give up to the extent of that new appraised value. So it wouldn't be at the 5, it would be based on the 4.5 million, of course. So just to clarify that point.
If there's no other question, or Commissioner, go ahead.
Second.
All right. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion carries.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right, we have another request to take another item out of order, and item number 6A. We have our lawyers here, Mr. Jose Garza and Rolando Rios. The census update PowerPoint presentation. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Judge. Morning, Judge and Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. Along with me is Jose Garza, who is my co-counsel on the work we've been doing here, and Mariano is with your GIS people here and your staff. What's wrong with the census and the 2000 census and the 2010 census is that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It misses people, and it misses them disproportionately. It undercounts racial and ethnic minorities, and it overcounts non-minorities. Besides the impact that it has on your finances, it also has some very dramatic impacts on your mortality rates, morbidity rates, injuries, accidents, crimes, and other statistics that are used to gauge the problems and challenges facing communities. The overall effect of the undercount is to exaggerate the risks associated with living in minority communities, making them less attractive relative to other communities for private enterprise and investors. How do we know that this happens, and how do we know that there's an undercount? Because the census tells us there's an undercount. How do I change this to the next one? Okay. In 2000, the Presidential Commission that monitors the census was created to measure the impact that the census has on finances that go through the federal government between 2002 and 2012. This is the last year of the funding that's impacted by the census. And they looked at 8 programs that use census data for their funding. The programs that are listed here in this graph are Medicaid, foster care, rehab, and all of these programs are extremely important to our communities, especially to the minority communities. So those are the programs that the federal government uses to, wherein the financing and the funding is based on census data. These are the undercounts that were, the loss of funds that were estimated because of the 2000 undercount. And as you can see, Hidalgo County lost some of the highest percentage of funding. And if you look at the 4 counties in the surrounding area, Hidalgo, Cameron, Starr, Willacy, these are the estimated loss of funds with the undercount that occurred during 2010. And we're estimating that it's about $73 million lost in revenues locally. Now, I've shown you this map before, but this is basically, again, information from the Census Bureau. And the Census Bureau has been conducting censuses since the 1800s. And they have a history. Every census tract has a history. And they have identified what they call the hard-to-count census tracts. And these in red are the hardest to count census tracts. Consistently, every 10 years, they miss a substantial number of people in these areas. And as you can see down in the valley, just about every census tract is what they consider a hard to count tract. What do I do here? Again? Go back. This next chart is a very significant chart because this is a chart from the GIS department, and it basically identifies what they call the rooftops. And this is a particular census block that we were able to focus on, and the census reports that there's 14 people living in the census tract. As you can see, when we took the aerial, this is from Google Maps, there's 152 rooftops. How can this happen? People ask me, how can this happen? How come it continues to happen? Well, we always knew every 10 years when this happened, I know the judge would mention, you know, it doesn't seem like that's right. It seems like there's more people here, and heard that all over the place. Well, what's happened is 2 things. Number one is we now know the effect of the census when they miss people in terms of loss of funding. And secondly, the technology. We didn't have this 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, where we could go to the census and say, look, here's an aerial photo, April of 2010. How can it only be 14 people when you have all these rooftops? So we have the technology. This is new.
Where is this particular census tract located?
It's in Precinct 3. Palma del Norte, bro. It's Mount Martin Valley area. Yeah.
So that's a very important development where we can now go to them and say, and I call these the smoking guns. How can they deny that this occurs? Here's another one. We just picked 3 that, and these are not difficult to find, Judge and Commissioners. These are not difficult to find. And here's the block itself. We count 42 rooftops, and the census reports 2 people. And I've found blocks that they report no people, and there's blocks like this. Here's another one. They report 7 people there. The aerial, you can count however many houses you can count there, 16, and just in that one block. If you look to the right, it says 9 people in the block to the right, and you can count probably 20-something houses there. Don't worry, we're not missing these. We're going to be reporting these.
How many are there total? There's about, what, 5,000 or something?
You mean in the whole county?
Yes.
We don't know yet. In fact, this is a chart, by the way, of the first 10 blocks. We've already submitted 30 blocks.
But how many blocks are there in the county? What did the census do?
5,000 rural blocks.
5,000 rural blocks, but what about in the city and all that?
Don't have that.
Probably in the tens of thousands. We can get you that information, though, Judge.
Well, that's where it's headed. I mean, we're going to need to provide the evidence to the board or whoever hears these appeals.
Well, it's the Census Bureau itself. This summary table here is the first 10 blocks. We got 2,000 people in the first 10 blocks, and these were not difficult to find, and that's $6 million just there.
Probably, but okay, there.
The next, another 10 blocks is 1.5 million, and another is 3.5 million. Just in those first 30 blocks, we're talking about $13 million approximately that were impacted by this undercount. Now, I will tell you that we've submitted the first 30, and we've already gotten some feedback from the Census Bureau. They wanted additional information. The judge, we got them some additional information. Now we got a letter back from them acknowledging that they have received the challenges and they have assigned a number to it, and it takes 60 days to tell us what. Now, the other thing is, we've got another 30 that we're working on, and we're going to be submitting these as they get produced. And I was asking Mariano today, how's it looking? Are we getting where we're not finding? He says, no, they're all over the place. And a lot of it, Judge, in the newer areas, where the newer developments, that's where they miss a lot of people because they don't have the current addresses. And these are new developments that were there in April of 2010. We are keeping, just so you'll know, we are keeping the Congressman Cuellar's staff person, they've assigned a staff person, abreast of everything, every email and everything, they get it, because they're going to be setting up the appointments with the Census Bureau once we start getting some feedback. So
I met with Congressman Hinojosa this morning, and he wants to be actively involved
we need a staff person from him. I will contact his office today, Judge. Joe, did you want to say a few things?
The only thing I wanted to add, Judge, Commissioners, is that the way we've approached this is, and the reason we're doing it piecemeal, submitting one group of blocks at a time, is because it is very tedious, very time-consuming, lots of man-hours to put this material together. And we want to see what kind of reaction we're going to get from the Census Bureau. If we waited until we'd completed the project and then submitted the whole amount of work, then we wouldn't have time to react, to modify our strategy, to modify our methodologies. So that's the reason we want to, as soon as we get a set of blocks complete, we want to submit it. And we want to push the Bureau of the Census to get a response back to us. That way we can modify our strategy if we need to, or we can respond further. The second thing that I wanted to mention is that, as directed by the Commissioners Court, we're keeping all the options open. The most economical way of approaching this is if we can convince the Bureau of the Census to do this and give us a remedy administratively. But we're keeping the litigation option open. We've been contacting a number of people to see what our burden's going to be, what kind of resources are available to the county if, in fact, at some point we need to pursue litigation. So those are the things that I wanted to add to the presentation that was made by
2 weeks ago, you came in and said that so far you've only worked on about 250 or 60 different blocks, and that you were going to be needing, you being our IT department,
Yes, sir.
needing
Yes, sir.
some assistance. That's what I wanted you to talk about. That's in front of the entire court, because right now we're about to get into a budget cycle, and that we're looking at having to hire additional staff. You needed to make a case for it. Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen.
Yes, sir, and it's clear to us to try and get this done, and before I get into that also, Judge, it's real important that the community realizes that the leadership you're providing here is extremely important, because we're also starting to get ready for the 2020 census, and you cannot let this happen again decade after decade after decade. And I think with this process that we're going through, we're going to put the census on notice that they cannot allow this undercount to continue decade after decade. So we are setting the footprint and making making the point that this cannot happen anymore, and that during the 2020 census, everybody's going to get counted. Yes, this is very tedious work, as Mr. Garza said, and it's evident to us that we need one or two more staff people that to work with the IT to input every single address so we can get this thing done.
What are we looking at in terms of a timetable?
Okay, the federal law allows these challenges to occur between now and June of 13. At June of 13, the doors closed, and then they make the adjustments of next year.
Just to answer your question, Judge, we're bringing an agenda item forward in a week or two, requesting the creation of 2 temporary GIS clerk positions that will enter the data. As of this moment, of the 5,000 rural blocks, we have counted 275. And this is the information that we've gotten out of 275. We feel that if we're allowed a little more time and these temporary resources, and they will be temporary resources, we can make more progress in compiling the data for the court.
Okay. Under economic considerations, I would ask you to talk to Congressman Hinojosa. He really differs from your assessment as to the amount of money that we're losing. I mean, he's in the hundreds of millions.
But, you know, we're dealing with the data that they've given us. He's probably dealing more from a personal knowledge of what's going on here, and I would not have any problems deferring to him as much as possible on what he
Well,
he
he's
thinks.
willing to help, and if you'll contact him, I
I
think
will.
it'll help make our case.
I'll contact his office today.
These are very conservative
These are very
estimates,
conservative.
Judge. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
Could be
We
a lot
don't
higher.
want to present, you know, the extreme. These are the conservative figures that even the Census Bureau admits. So,
All right. Anything else? Not, thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners, especially for your leadership.
All right, and I would entertain a motion to recess our Commissioners' Court meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I would now reconvene our Drainage District meeting. Item number 6.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you. Requesting approval of the district's liability property re-rate exposure summary with the Texas Municipal League for general liability, errors and omissions, auto liability, physical damage, property, equipment, schedule, and workman's comp. It's a standard renewal exposure with a summary attached on it.
Move for approval?
Second.
How much insurance are you getting?
Judge, I don't have all the facts. I'd have to go back into the item. Basically, it's the standard renewal we have on all our policies, and I do not have the actual dollar figure.
And the deductible is how much?
I cannot give you all the information. I think our financial officer might. Laura?
Is it along the same lines as the county, or?
Yes, it is. This is the renewal of the exposure draft that we do every year. It's for the year 2011 through 2012.
But the numbers are the same as the county? SIRs or deductibles?
Yes,
and
yes, they are.
and total?
Wait a minute. Are workers' comp is together with the county?
Excuse me?
Is the drainage workers' comp together with the county?
On the insurance?
Yeah.
With health insurance, we're with the county, but this one, we're separate with TML, who represents cities and districts.
That's the workman's comp.
Oh, workers' comp is with TML. We have workers' comp with Texas Municipal League.
So you're not with us then?
No.
We're not.
Would it, I mean, is
So
it
we're
better
not
if you
so
were
far.
with us, or have you evaluated whether or not?
As far as the evaluation, they do give us information on the yearly claims, and we are able to assess how much we've put in, and they do return to us some refunds if we've overpaid or underpaid.
Judge, Commissioners, if you wish, we can take no action on this, give us the ability
Jeffrey,
to have.
remember,
Yes, sir.
several years ago when y'all had an accident, one of the tractors.
Yes, sir.
Driver came off and, I mean, it messed up his leg.
It was a major claim on the issue on it, yes, sir.
And you were on our.
That is correct, sir, and then we went out and went on our.
Self-funded. And I remember we subrogated from John Deere, whoever it was, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And then y'all switched over to yourself?
Yes, sir. If the board wishes, I'd rather have come back next week, Commissioners, give you the exact comparison between ours and the counties, So that way, at least you'll know where we stand on this item. And I apologize.
Who takes care of y'all's workers' comp? What's y'all's modifier?
The modifier, I can get the information, but it's fairly a lot lower than what we were, when we were with the county.
No, because ours used to be 274, it's down below 1 now, but I mean, what is yours?
Okay. I can get that
Judge,
information, but
why don't we bring it back next week?
I'd
I'll
rather-
rescind my
bring it-
motion.
I'd rather bring it back, Commissioner. That way we better answer the questions you might
But,
have.
and I'll just add that Texas Municipal League does submit all our claims and everything that we filed, and they do a comparison on what we've added to adjust the modifier at that, and will refund us money, or they have in the past.
All right. So we're not
No
gonna take
action on
any
it, Judge. I'd rather bring it to y'all for more
The
detail as the
motions have
Commissioner's
been
question.
rescinded.
Yes, sir.
And then let's move on to the next item.
Thank you very much, Judge Commissioners. Item B, requesting approval supplemental agreement number 1 for geotechnical engineering services as it relates to the Hidalgo County Drainage System number 1 Alamo Expressway Drain Crossing. This was Ramiro Gutierrez for geotech, and the amount is for $8,014.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 7, request approval of payment request to SCR Construction Ltd. for the final payment and final release of retainage plus interest on DHS segment 06BC, payment request number 23-138, and those are in the amount of $12,120.42, $559,482.77, and $570,391.15. These are the last payments on all the projects.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B, request approval of payment request to SCR Construction Ltd. for final payment and final release of retained plus interest on DH segment 07, payment request number 24, in the amount of $95,870.33, $389,550 was 26 cents, $474,838.13. Again, these are all final payments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C, request approval to process manual check to SCR Construction Partners Ltd. for the above-mentioned projects pending the approval of the county auditor and Department of Homeland Security and pending the electronic transfer of funds from the Department of Payment and Management.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item A is request approval to accept bids, approval of requirement agreements for bid number 12-009-06-13, pipes from multiple vendors as follows: ACT Pipe and Supply, Ferguson Waterworks, Contech Engineering Solutions, and EMSA Company. We have a list of all the pipes that they've submitted with the low bidding documents for each one of those items.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B, request approval to advertise for RFP number 12014-07-25, stone riprap material. Again, it's the authorization to advertise for rock riprap.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Godfrey, do you have some of that stuff on stockpile somewhere?
We're trying to get some on stockpile, Commissioner. What we were going to try to do last year when y'all let us do that was try to start stockpiling from Mexico, but because of the issues that took place in Mexico, they shut the quarries down and everything out there.
You need to have at least 30 or 40 loads somewhere.
Yes, sir. Y'all had told us to go ahead and try to stockpile in each precinct at strategic locations.
Yeah.
And when we tried to do that, basically the vendor started coming back, well, I had to shut my quarry down. and said-
In case you need it on a weekend or whatever.
Yes, sir. So hopefully with this RFQ out there, will give us the ability to stockpile out there.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C, presentation of scoring grid for the firms evaluated through the district's pool of title report services for the purpose of ranking by the Hidalgo County Drainage System number 1 Board of Directors in connection with the title report services for the Far McAllen South Lateral. We have two firms, South Texas Land and Valley Land Title, and with South Texas Land being ranked at 100 and Valley Land Title at 94. Again, this is just a title report and not a title policy associated with it.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item D, pursuant to the board's approval, requesting authority to issue purchase order to the number 1 ranked firm of South Texas Land Investigation for the title report for services of Far McAllen South Lateral.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Who did the ranking on these firms?
Our purchasing officer did the ranking, Judge. I stay out of the ranking situation.
Item 9.
Item 9, request approval of advanced funding agreement AFA for US 281 from FM 162 to FM 490 CSJ 025507-128. This AFA is between Hidalgo County Drainage System Number 1, the Texas Department of Transportation, and requires the district contribution of $1.5 million toward the construction of the bridge on US 281 to address the county's proposed drainage ditch. This is a partnership between TxDOT and ourselves, where we're putting in 1.5 and TxDOT will put in the other 1.5 for the expressway or the crossing on US 281.
Vote to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B, request approval of budget amendment from the district's general fund, unreserved fund balance to fund the above-mentioned agreement. This is a transfer from, part of it from the money that we're getting from the Edinburgh Airport property, which is about $450,000, and the rest is from our fund balance to move forward on the project.
Vote to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C, request approval to process manual check to the Texas Department of Transportation Agreement, CSJ 025507-128.
Vote to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 10, request approval to rescind prior action from the district's April 10, 2012 agenda item 9A, interlocal agreement between the county and the drainage district. This is related to the property that we're buying from the county, which is where the office is. So in discussion with legal counsel and the auditor's office, we're requesting to rescind that action, and we'll follow up with the action right below this.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B, request approval of an interlocal cooperative agreement between Hidalgo County Drainage System Number 1 and the County of Hidalgo for the sale and purchase terms of Tract 1 and 3 of land totaling 8.76 acres out of Lot 15, Section 245 of the Texas-Mexican Railroad Survey of Land. This is based on the appraisal, and I believe legal has worked out whatever technical issues the auditor had. So that'll give the ability of $385,596 to be released from our coffer to the county's coffer.
Where is this at?
That's where our office is at,
All right.
Commissioner.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Request approval of the issuance of a manual check to complete the transaction of acquiring land, subject to the approval of the county auditor,
Vote to approve.
Second.
or county agenda also.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
We have no item in executive session. The board wishes to entertain one.
Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you very much, Judge Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Now, at this time, we would proceed to reconvene our regular meeting of the Hidalgo County Commissioners Court. At this time, I would request that you all join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's remain standing, please. Almighty God, we come together today for the good of the citizens of Hidalgo County. Give us your wisdom as we make decisions that will affect them today and the years to come. Help us to work well together, recognizing that each of us are here because we want what is best for Hidalgo County. We ask for your blessing and your guidance. In your name we pray, O Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Any concerns with our consent agenda, Mr. Obraza?
Yes, Judge. I would like to ask that consent agenda items 12D, 2, 14C, 14M, 14N, 14, and 14R and V be pulled for discussion.
14R?
14R and 14V as in Victor. 12D2, 14C, 14M, 14N, 14R, and 14V.
I need a motion to approve our consent agenda subject to those items. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
On agenda item 12D2, Judge, just a point of information that there was a typo on the statute being referenced. It should be 115.0035. That's the correct statute.
Did you read the caption?
I'm sorry? Let me read the caption, sure.
That's 12D2, correct?
Yeah, 12D2. And it reads as follows. Pursuant to Local Government Code Section 115 .0035, requesting approval of the attached reports. Again, there was a typo. Instead of 035, should be 0035.
What is the will of the commission? You have a motion for approval?
Move for
Second.
approval then? Yes.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign, motion passes. 14C, Mr. Ocasio.
On 14C, that's under purchasing. That's requesting authority to advertise the procurement packet and specifications as attached here too for. That was the Shoe Shine concession services, including the re-advertising of the project in the event no proposals are received or the rejection of responses received and the project is still ongoing. We have attached all the documentation. I have confirmed with Ms.
What is your
Arce.
concern?
Well, there was a
And
couple of comments there. One, the legal counsel's final formal review and approval.
That's been attached,
Was not attached? Okay, it's attached
and
now.
the correction on the term has been attached.
Okay, and there was also issues with the agreement, but those have been corrected, Marty, you saying?
All of them, yes.
Okay.
They're now there.
So move for approval then?
Second.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign, motion passes. 14M, Mr. Ocasio.
Yes, on the second one, that's 32662. This is requesting authority to enter into a 12-month subscription with public data for the county clerk's collection department's use of public database commencing upon approval through the requisition listed. The concern is legal counsel's formal review of and approval was not attached. We have an email from the vendor that says a PO is more than sufficient. There is no signature page on the data that's attached and provided by the vendor, and therefore, the vendor's accepting our terms and conditions under the purchase order, so thus, there was no legal review required. And we do have those attachments. The
Mr.
vendor
Crane?
is accepting a purchase order.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Entertain
Move for
a
approval.
motion, we approve. We have a motion to approve. We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, same sign, motion passes.
Under
14N.
14N, if I can read the caption first. Okay, this is requesting ratification for continued technical support renewal agreement through PO number 676188 for the countywide network through the membership, through the DIR. This is the awarded vendor Calence, and the contract number is DIR SDD 1369. Now, as far as this is concerned, we are attaching an email which informs that a PO is acceptable and no agreement needs to be signed. Further, under terms and conditions, and that's under the term of the sale, from the vendor states that at the end of the second line, unless you have a separate purchase agreement signed by your company. In addition, in the history of purchasing from Calence, we have done it through a purchase order, and to this point have never had the agreement. But their terms and conditions do state that our PO would be acceptable and supersede.
What is your concern?
That was the concern was the support agreement was not attached, and the legal counsel formal review.
No,
and
the
approval was
agreement is attached, but because we did attach it yesterday, you're correct. But because that language is in there and they don't want an agreement signed, they're accepting our terms and conditions under a
Mr. Green?
purchase order.
I'm not personally familiar with this one, but if Marty's correct, they're agreed to accept our terms and conditions and their terms and conditions.
I'm very comfortable
Let's
with it.
entertain a motion, we approve the item.
What's your recommendation?
That we proceed. We have been purchasing under the
There's a motion
DIR
to
anyway.
approve. We have a second. There's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign, motion passes. 14R.
14R is merely a point of information, and let me read the caption of the agenda. This is requesting approval of invoice number 04.0312, SO in the amount of $16,891.20 as opposed to the typo of $18,891.20. The ruling number is $16,891.20.
Is that your sole concern?
Yes, the
Motion to
concern
approve.
was
Do we have a second?
the typo.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign, motion passes. 14V.
And that's the last one. This is approval of a request for final payment for architectural and engineering fees from Project Architect, VA Architecture, through contract number 037 in connection with the design and construction of the new administration offices for Hidalgo County Precinct 2. With the first item, a typo did occur. The correct amount is $147.68 and not $247.75. And that's all there is.
Did your sole concern?
Okay, move for approval of the correction.
There's a motion to approve, and there's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Motion passes.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Father, where did the judge leave off?
Well, Commissioner, I don't believe that we've done item 5. We haven't done 5? So with the court's permission, Commissioner, item 5A, 1 and 2, there's no action at this time unless we need to take action further down the agenda. Item 5B, I'm asking the court to approve a settlement check in the amount of $3,500 from Old American Insurance Company, and this would be to settle an auto accident with the County Vehicle Sheriff's Office. There is a concern from the auditor's office. I will address that concern. This was a negotiated settlement through Ms. Josie Ramirez's office. And so all appropriate documentation is with Ms. Ramirez's office.
This is the amount of $3,500?
Yes.
What's the concern?
The concern is the amount needed to cover the cost of the repair were higher than the amount that we settled for. So the
Right.
county's going to have to come up with some money out of
Who was
pocket.
at fault on this action?
It was not our fault, but again, it was not our fault, but again, this was a settlement negotiated through the district, through Ms. Ramirez's office at the district attorney's office. And so it is their recommendation that we accept this settlement.
How much difference is it?
1,000 and some change, was it?
Right.
How much?
A little over $1,000. It's 1,000 and change.
Well, they settled it for a reason.
Right, there's extenuating circumstances, and again, they're recommending that we accept.
Second.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
So the second part would be to authorize our county judge to sign the property damage release form to settle the claim with Old American Insurance Company.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item 5C, Judge Commissioners, I'm asking approval of settlement check from Allstate Insurance Company in the amount of $15,488.81.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And item D would be to submit a request for funds or unclaimed capital credits from Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. This is as authorized under Section 74.602 of the Texas Property
Motion
Code.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
And just for the record, it also includes the authority for our county judge to sign the letter of request.
Right.
Thank you.
All right.
70?
I believe we're at
Next item is
6F.
6F.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. The item in question is authorization for county judge to sign and submit the 2012 eligibility certification form for the Texas Homeland Security State Administrative Agency.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item 7, our Health Department.
Good morning, Judge Commissioner. 7A, discussion and action including but not limited to indigent healthcare services. Sir, what we're doing is we're continuing our regional health plan. I'm following up with Steve Aragon, legal counsel of Steve Crane. I've requested some additional information from his office. There's been some transitions in at the state level. The Health and Human Services Commissioner, Commissioner Stees, and the Deputy Commissioner, Commissioner Milwee, have decided to step down in their posts, which has been very interesting, and let's see how this impacts our whole plan for dealing with the 1115 waiver. So, but we're proceeding with our scheduled plan to have everything ready, hopefully by the end of July. We'll bring it before the court, maybe have a workshop scheduled. All this is it's unforeseen, but we just go forward and just do the best we can with it. We're working closely with the hospitals, Willacy County Hospital District, Starr County Hospital District, and with Cameron County overall to try to get the regional health plan completed. Any questions or comments regarding 1115 waiver? I think Commissioner Quintanilla, you sent an email requesting some information on this, but the email didn't come out quite clear. Can I help you with something in that area?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and meet later.
Okay, sounds good. I don't have anything else further on 7A. Judge, if you have any other questions or concerns?
No, sir, go ahead. 7B.
7B, requesting authorization for Hidalgo County Health and Human Services to apply for the Community Transformation Grant. The purpose of this program is to prevent heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, and other leading chronic diseases, causes of death and disability throughout implementation of a variety of evidence-based programs policies and infrastructure improvements to promote healthier lifestyles in our small communities. This is a grant that we're applying for to target about 500,000 people in our county. We've highlighted the areas to include the San Carlos area, South Tower Road area, Ed Cauchelsa area, some of the other smaller communities in the Delta and area, and there's a couple of areas in Precinct 3.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C is requesting authorization for Hidalgo County Health and Human Services to participate in a professional provider network and health maintenance organization, Blue Cross Blue Shield. On this item, sir, I want to take no action on this, but this is an important item that we just need to have one word clarified in the contract. And that word's been going back and forth, and it identifies us as a professional provider versus a county provider, and we have to take it to the state insurance board to get reviewed, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But this is going to allow Hidalgo County Health to become a primary care support for Blue Cross Blue Shield participants throughout South Texas. So we're working on a last-second situation with them. And after reviewing with Mr. Ramirez and with Mr. Crane, that one word we need to look at altering. So no action today.
All right, sir.
Item D, sir, there's no action on item D. But this is also an important situation with United Healthcare, where we're actually using healthcare components to help deal with surveillance. There was a HIPAA situation that we need to get clarified on the last moment that it came up, so I'll be bringing back that to court in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 8, emergency management.
Authorization and approval to accept the revision to the performance period, which will be from August 1st, 2010 to July 31st, 2012, for the 2010 Homeland Security Grant Program from the Texas Division of Emergency Management, with authority for the county judge to sign the required document.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
All right, sir, and there is some information I do have to give for this. The grant was originally intended to purchase equipment for the Lynn San Manuel Fire Department, but due to time restraints, we wouldn't be able to complete the project in time, and the HSAC committee did approve that we could use the funds towards a regional communications project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 9, our IT department.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Item 9A for facilities management, this is a name change on a cell phone as listed. I seek your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
On
Mr. Ramirez,
9,
was there a funding in place for that?
yes, sir, for the.
They're only changing the
name.
The issue they referred to as one in consent, we took no action on that.
For 9A?
9A, it's got a requisition on there. Should be a requisition. I'm not seeing the backup, but it should be provided
Just
pending.
requesting a name change.
All we're doing is saying the
We're just
name,
changing
right?
the name change. There was an original PO, I'm sorry, there was an original PO attached to this cell phone. So we're just changing the allocation of the phone from one person to another person. 9B, facilities management. This is requesting a data card for Mr. Richard Sunday, effective upon approval till the end of the year, as noted.
Move to approve.
Now, on that one also, there's a issue with funding.
Okay.
Do you have sufficient
Mr.
funding in
Cruz said
place?
funding's available, sir.
I'm sorry? Okay.
The date, you know what, they just noted the date is wrong. You know what, I'd like to take no action on this one in particular. The date is wrong.
That was my question.
Yeah, it's wrong on the date. The date's wrong on the table, and that's probably a
We can
typo.
entertain a
On which-
motion with the correction of the
On
date.
which item, sir?
On B.
9A or B?
9B.
All right.
I apologize for that. And 9C is authorization to request, this is a brand-new activation for an individual at the Colonia Access Program through our contract DIR with Verizon Wireless, as listed below. Request approval.
We had already approved B. We can do it subject to correction.
Yes, sir.
Of the date.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And the correction would be to be from June 26th through December 31st, 2012?
2012, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Have a great morning.
I like the 10. I'll be young.
All right, are we through, Mr. Ramirez? All right, Urban County, number 10.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. Our first item on the agenda is a request for the approval of subrecipient agreements with the following agencies. This would be the Children's Advocacy Center in the amount of $97,500, Camp University in the amount of $60,000, Casa of Hidalgo, $70,500, Easter Seals of the Rio Grande Valley, $10,000, and the Food Bank of the RGV for $45,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion
How
carries.
much is Camp University getting? Is that from the whole precincts?
Camp University is getting $60,000.
From which precincts?
I don't have a breakdown,
All right.
but we did put it all together
All right.
for all of, so we could have one contract. Item B, is that approved?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you give us a breakdown and send it out to all of us, what each one of the agencies is getting?
For each agency or which precinct is providing the money?
No, the agency.
Okay, I will do that, yes. Item B is requesting the approval of a payment of an origination fee of 1% in order to renew the existing $500,000 line of credit with First National Bank for the Colonia construction grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C is requesting consideration and approval to appoint myself or any other executive director as the program compliance officer to ensure compliance with the following, which is the compliance officers regarding non-discrimination requirements for the Department of Housing and Urban Development regulations implementing the Section 504, and equal opportunity fair housing officers. B, the labor standards officer for the HUD, as well as the General Land Office, Texas Department of Agriculture, and TDHCA.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
You need to appoint, I move to appoint Diana
Appoint
Smith.
Diana, right.
Could we just make it executive director just in case?
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Executive Director.
All right. Did you want
My
to make a
question
comment,
is, he's
sir?
getting additional duties here. Is there going to be some salary implications?
No.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, no.
Are you suggesting there should be?
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item C2 is requesting consideration and approval to authorize the county judge to sign any and all documents associated with the compliance officer appointments.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item D is requesting your consideration and approval of appointing the Urban County Executive Director as the self-help coordinator. This is also a requirement that the state is placing upon us.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Second part is consideration and approval to authorize the county judge to act as the county's executive officer and authorized representative in all matters pertaining
Move to
to.
approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
E is requesting the approval of the interlocal agreements with 16 city consortiums for the Urban County Program Year 25, which starts July 1st, 2012, and authorization for the county judge to sign any and all documents, or all agreements.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item F is requesting Commissioners Court a formal rejection of the bids that were submitted and opened on April 25th, 2012, at Hidalgo County's Purchasing Department for the Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, contract number 729055 for providing first-time sewer services to colonias in Precinct 1. These would be in Colonia Science, De Anda, and Perez subdivision, and including the approval to authorize the county judge to sign any and all documents associated with this. The reason we're not able to do this is because the city of Mercedes was not able to obtain an easement that is required for the project, so therefore we're going to try some other way to get this project accomplished.
That's correct. Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item G is for Precinct 3, and we're requesting approval to award best and final negotiated contract with Javier Hinojosa Engineering in the amount of $631,834 for the 2.1 disaster recovery funds through the Texas General Land Office for contract number 12-406-000-6453.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item H is also for the award of subrecipient agreements for the year 2012. Nuestra Clínica del Valle will receive $10,000. Open Hands Community Charitable Services, $25,173. The Lower Rio Grande Development Council Valley Metro, $100,000. Senior Community Outreach Services, $41,500. And the Boys and Girls Club of Mission for $37,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item I is also the approval of subrecipient agreements to Amigos del Valle for $59,500, Arise South Tower for $10,000, Boys and Girls Club of Alamo and San Juan for $63,500, the Boys and Girls Club of Edinburgh, RGV, for $80,000, and the Boys and Girls Club of FAR for $10,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item J is for the approval of subrecipient agreements with the Lower Rio Grande Development Council Foster Grandparent Program for $11,500, the Girl Scouts of Greater South Texas for $5,000, Hope Family Health Center for $18,000, La Unión del Pueblo Entero for $46,636, and Women Together Foundation for $46,500.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Our final item, Judge Commissioners, is the approval of a 6-month extension for an Urban County Community Housing Development Organization, also known as the SHODO. And these contracts extensions are for Proyecto Azteca in their 2009 funding.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Judge, and I will provide you with the list.
Thank you. Item 11, our WIC program.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Morning.
I have an item under WIC for permission to apply for the following grants: Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity Prevention Grant for an amount of $50,000 for year 2013, an Obesity Prevention Mini Grant for $18,000 for year 2013, and March of Dimes Community Award Grant for $3,000 for year 2013.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And number 2 is the WIC Breastfeeding Grant. It's approval to amend the 2012 budget for the WIC Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Grant at $82,463 with the certification of revenues and appropriation of those funds.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And number 3, WIC Lactation Services, approval to amend the 2012 budget for the WIC Lactation Services Grant in the amount of $11,410 with the certification of revenues and the appropriation of those funds.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 12, our Head Start.
Mr. Tavares here, but we were assisting them in reviewing what was submitted, and we're recommending that no action be taken. They received their first proposal, which does give you this amount. However, there were no coefficients included in the proposal. We requested a clarified proposals, and now there are a lot of additional pricing that has to be actually verified and analyzed, commencing with general conditions. That's over a $55,000 increase. We strongly recommend that they go out and seek proposals again that can be walked through or have a pre-submission conference.
Marty,
Because
is
we're
this
not going to
building-
be,
Is this the one they're going to move, or this
this is
one
one
that
where
the
they're going to
roof messed
repair the
up?
roof.
Huh?
This is where the roof is going to be repaired, or
Yeah, but-
redone.
But wasn't it under warranty or anything like that? I mean, it
No,
hadn't been done that long.
the contractor is going to pay for it, the original contractor. They chose not to do the repairs. They say, whatever you come in with on your proposals from Jocks, we'll pay. But the agreement is contingent on the amount being correct. And so now we've got conflicting proposals from the same job
Contingent on what now?
on the amount that's going to be covered by the original contractor.
This is the same
I
project.
received a proposal this morning that's over 200,000 that differs greatly from the amount that's here, and this one does not have coefficient factors to be able to verify.
What kind of written agreements do we have in place that they are going to come through with the money?
That's being negotiated through Mr. Crane. So you cannot,
Can they give us a letter of credit or something like that, Steve?
What they initially agreed to was rebuild the building
themselves.
themselves. And then when we sent them 2 different contracts, and they refused to sign the contracts. And our concern was, well, just because they rebuild it, we need some type of warranties in case they don't do a good job in rebuilding the roof. And they refused to do that, now say that they'll just pay us the money once we get a firm price to them of what the new contract's gonna cost with a different contractor.
And we don't have a firm price yet?
No,
We don't have a
because
firm price
the
yet, so we
proposal
can't draft the
submitted
agreement.
by Alpha has no coefficients that we can extend and verify. When we ask them to clarify it, you have new pricings coming in, including the addition of general conditions, which is now at least $55,000 plus. So there's a lot of other additional charges now that are not near the 176. Pardon me?
When will you be ready to bring it back?
Well, it's up to, I'm assisting Head Start. They need to make a decision. We can only bring them all the shortfalls we saw, the
Yeah, but I
shortcomings.
mean, the summer's right now, I mean, we need to get it fixed as soon as we can because.
Well, I
whether
think
the
that
kids come back-
I think that if we seek new proposals, we can have it back in 2 weeks and it'll be finished.
Commissioner, I have no control over that. We first need a firm contract with a new contractor to establish the amount, so we can go back to the previous contractor with a firm amount.
Get them
So
to
it's very
commit to paying.
contingent on a proposal that is verified and firm. And that's what's lacking here.
Well, we're not
Can we hear
ready
from you,
today.
sir?
I think we're not
Well, this is
ready
Mr.
to-
Tovar, he's the
Yes.
purchasing director for Head Start. But we brought these shortcomings to his attention this morning. I know that Ms. Flores suggested that we approve subject to that proposal being firm. Right now, I can tell you that the proposal that came in to clarify this non-coefficient,
It really
the initial
doesn't do
proposal is quite different in price than this one.
What is it? Or can you
Over
say?
200 and something thousand dollars from this one.
We're not ready, so bring it back.
That's what I'm recommending.
Well,
back next
one of my
week.
concerns, gentlemen, is this has been going back and forth for months now.
Correct,
and
but if you'll
basically,
recall.
we've not been able to bring this to closure.
No.
At the same time, we have a facility that needs in dire need of work. So
sir.
who's working on this?
It is Head Start project. And we do assist,
What's
but
gonna happen if it's not ready when the kids come back?
they'll have to continue the way they are now, which was in a,
That's-
they
that's-
have them
that's
in
my
a.
They're
point.
not in there anymore. I
Well,
remember
but if
Ms.
keep
Flores
in
saying
mind,
that they had.
I'm not saying,
Well,
I'm not
but you've
saying
got
that,
you've got a vendor who.
I'm not saying that we should award this, I'm not saying we should approve it. My concern
This
is
is what came in.
that it's taking
This
lengthy
morning
time.
when we ran-
So who's
there's a
working on
vast
it?
amount.
I will.
And then just get the money from them.
I'm just telling you, if we're asked to review it, we cannot review it in its present state.
Is there some type of written settlement or something, Mr. Crane, with the vendor?
Why don't you make sure you tell Teresa to be here next week? when
We
we're
have an
talking about
oral
it.
agreement with,
yeah.
with the previous contractor to settle the case, but we can't reduce it to writing because we don't have a firm figure as to what the new construction is going to cost. Until we get that firm figure from this new job order contractor, we have nothing to put in writing.
And can you think in a week you'll be able to get a firm figure from that new contract?
That you're going to have to ask the purchase.
My staff can certainly try, we will place it on, but I can tell you that it should take no more than 2 weeks, so that we can verify pricing, and so that I can get some other jocks also to propose,
For how much?
For whatever it's gonna cost.
But we don't know what's.
or they
Well, as soon
can.
as they get it, we need to get a letter, don't just let them sign it.
When is Mrs. Flores out, sir?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Yes, sir,
solid
she's
they
out of
are.
town.
Till when?
Oh, solid, yeah.
She'll probably be back next week.
next week?
Can you check as to,
If it's okay with the court, we certainly can assist Mr. Tovar this week in accomplishing that. I'm just saying I don't want to go beyond my ability to direct Head Start, which is her
they
job.
should have had a performance.
Sure.
Didn't they have a performance bond or anything on that?
Pardon me?
Some kind of bond, a performance
The first
bond
one,
on it?
Yes.
Is the bond going to?
It was under the TCPN contract, the
It's under
original.
a co-op. But
They don't want to report it to their bond.
But they have
That's their
bonds.
whole thing. Okay.
So that's
Do
why
they
we
have
need-
liability
So
insurance?
that's why as soon as we get our total, whatever it is, we need to get a letter of credit from them, from the bank. Because the
Right.
signed contract ain't gonna mean anything.
And Mr. Tovar did go over with Mr. Garza from my office, the clarification proposal that came in from this original one, and it is far different. Far different, and much more expensive.
Okay.
Now, that's not a problem for us. I mean, the original company's going to pay, but we want to make sure we're going to get what we're asking for.
What is Head Start's attorney's role in this, Mr. Crane? Do you know? Because I know they have their own attorney as well.
Mr. Gonzalez, I think, defers to Mr. Crane.
I think he's deferred that to our office.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to next item then. Thank you, sir. Number 13, our right-of-way.
What's that, Joe?
Mr. Peña had to step out, Judge.
All right.
But
Keith, I've been looking at you all morning, and I'm still trying to figure out where you're at. What item? Oh, all right.
Valde, you take care of Joe, or no?
yes, I can take care of the first two. I can't take care of the third one. There is a
go
concern.
ahead.
I'm not too familiar. But the first one is for our county judge to execute electric utility easement in favor of Magic Valley Electric Cooperative. This is for our Precinct 1 Sheriff Substation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And the second one is the acceptance of an offer from Texas Department of Transportation for the purchase of property located on FM 681. This would be known as parcels 12 and 13, and that would be from South Highway 107 to Farm to Market 681 North at Farm Market 2221.
To approve.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Judge, Commissioners, I will ask that we, 13C, there is a concern, and the concern is that the funding information of the project name was not identified.
So that, we take no action on that one?
Well, I think what we can do right now is, if it pleases the court, that we will identify funding today, if it hasn't already been identified by the budget office. I'm sorry?
Can we approve it subject to funding?
Yes,
We do have the account number? Okay, so the funding has already been identified.
Okay, move for approval.
What about the name of the project? We don't know what project it is for. Do you know that, Sergio?
As far as the name of the project, no, I don't know what the name of the project is. It's
It's
being
over
paid
in-
just out of the Road and Bridge account for Precinct 4. But we don't have a specific account number for this project, no.
We will need that information in order for us to be able to record
Okay,
the
well,
transaction.
Do you want to set up a different account number for this project individually?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to set up a different program number for this
You
project?
mentioned to record the transaction.
To record the
We can
transaction.
approve this
Okay,
subject to that.
yes, and then we'll give you the project name.
No,
Okay.
somebody can just call Joe and
Right,
get
but
him on
no-
the phone, and then we can come back to it.
But for transaction purposes, we'll give them the name of the project.
I'll second that.
So what, no take no action on this?
No,
one?
please take action.
Yeah.
Take
Okay, move
action.
for approval?
Second.
All
Thank you,
right,
Sergio.
those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 14, Precinct 2. Commissioner?
sí.
He's on the way to the board.
Okay.
He's on his way, he's out outside. Are you ready, or do you want me to move it?
We'll come back.
Okay, we'll come back to it. Item 15, Precinct 3.
Actually, I'll be presenting that one as I've been assisting the precinct. I'm asking for the approval of acceptance of donation from the La Jolla Lions Club. This would be for 6 to 8 oak trees to be planted at the baseball park in Los Ebanos. All the appropriate backup with respect to the value of the proposed trees are attached.
Move for approval?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 16, our Budget Office.
Item 16A1 is discussion, consideration, and approval to surplus improvements with a zero value. Those improvements are the administration building for the Drainage District and the Drainage District shop. They have a zero value for the county. These were improvements purchased and constructed by the Drainage District. These improvements are located on 2 tracts of land totaling 8.76 acres out of Lot 15, Section 245 of the Texas-Mexican Railway Survey for purposes of disposition to another political subdivision.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Sir, were those improvements listed on the documentation?
We forwarded documentation to the county clerk's office for proper reporting. We do have a listing, a separate exhibit for that.
Okay. Is it an exhibit?
Yes,
Included in
we can send that over to your office as well. It's just a little sheet listing those 2 improvements. The district's value and the county value listed at 0. Item 16A2 is discussion, consideration, and approval to surplus the 2 tracts of land totaling the 8.76 acres out of the Lot 15 of the Texas-Mexican Railway Survey for purposes of disposition to another political subdivision. The appraised value of those 2 lots is $385,596.
Move to approve.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
In item 16A2, actually 3, it's improperly listed, it should be 3. Discussion, consideration, and approval of interlocal cooperation agreement between Hidalgo County Drainage District Number 1 and the County of Hidalgo for the sale and purchase of a Track 1 and Track 3, which are Exhibits A and B, to the Hidalgo County Drainage District Number 1, made payable by funds of the Drainage District in the total amount of $385,000 and $596.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 16B is discussion, consideration, and approval of the advanced funding agreement between the County of Hidalgo and the Texas Department of Transportation for the Mile 2 North project from State Highway 364 to Moorfield Road, with authority for the county judge to sign the advanced funding agreement, as well to pay TxDOT the proportionate share of $16,103 for the estimated state direct cost for the Mile 2 North project.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 16C is approval to apply for a secondary responsible reporting entity ID number as per Section 111 of the Medicare, Medicaid, and S-CHIP Extension Act of 2007 for reporting of employees' liability claims. We currently have an RRE number that we're using for both county liability claims and workers' comp claims. We're just requesting a second number so that we can have these claims reported separately and be able to pay for those costs separately as well. So just requesting approval to request that second ID number.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
motion carries.
In the interest of time, I'll just pass out the May monthly budget report. As of May 31st, we have expended 34% of the county's general fund budget, which tracks with historically, which prior years. Again, I'll just, for the interest of time, just skip over this. We will be having at-length discussions regarding this current budget and for next year's budget, probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, as we start the budget development process for 2013. Requires no action. Item 16E is approval to pay the Texas Association of Counties on the amount of $15,669.30 to cover deficits due to unemployment claims exceeding quarterly deposits for the first quarter of 2012, with the authority for the county treasurer to issue payments after auditing procedures are completed by the county auditor.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, item 14, precinct 2.
Judge Raul Seguero, Precinct 2, representing Commissioner Hector Palacios. Item 14A is presentation for consideration, discussion, acceptance, and approval of the following with Science Utility Contractors for Eldora Road and Drainage Improvement Project as submitted and recommended by Project Engineer Raul Cecin. Item A is certificate of substantial completion. B, application for retainage in the amount of $19,433.68. Item C is certificate of construction completion reflecting completion date of March 12, 2012, with authority for the county judge or the court member to execute the documents.
Move for approval, 14A, A through C.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, item 17, purchasing.
Yes. Martha Salazar for the Purchasing Department. Nothing to report under 17A1, A, B, and C, or 2 or 3. I'm going to item 4. Approval of the First Amendment to Agreement Number 343 with First Southwest Company in connection with the RFP for financial advisory services in order to clarify the fees as shown in Appendix A of current agreement and replace with the revised adjusted Attachment A, Appendix A.
Move for approval.
Second.
Are we paying him more or less, or?
This is clarifying their fees. There were issues of non-clarity on the part that was raised by the auditor's office, and those were ironed out, and this is the result.
And what is the fee now?
Those would be included in the backup. Judge, it's not just one fee, it's different aspects of
I don't have the
billing.
backup here. Do you have it with you, and you can just tell us?
Let me go get in here. I'm trying to be with it here, this entry.
Is it a percentage, or is it a set fee?
Mr.
or-
Ocasio, do you recall? Let me get in here. I don't know what the major. As opposed to a per page, or?
Well, yeah, there was, it included other miscellaneous costs to that, so we took that out, and the computer restructuring fee, we did leave it as negotiated in advance for Commissioner's Court. So prior to the issuance, we'll come back with some of those miscellaneous costs, be approved by court, and not after the fact, not after.
Is it a specific amount, Sergio, or is it a percentage, or does it
The fees are
escalate?
percentages.
The fees for the,
The one we're at, the one that we're being
based on
asked to vote
percentage of
on?
The issuance costs, those fees have not changed.
No, it was more
It's only-
detailed.
It has more to do with the miscellaneous expenses, such as copying expense, travel.
They were more clarified and more structured and more now numerated to where there is no ambiguous or additional charges.
And we also included language that now that they will come to Commissioner's Court before the actual issuance of the debt.
Are they similar to what we used to have with, Jose Estrada?
Yes, I believe they're a little bit lower than what they were.
All right.
Judge, I think the issue was that those fees were not clear in the agreement.
Right.
And the same thing was with Estrada and Hinojosa. So now that we got a new company, we would like for those fees to be specific. We met with the vendor, and then we cleared out those, what they were. Sometimes they were based on a negotiated basis, case-by-case basis, right?
On a case-by-case basis. However, I
Now it's
believe
more
previously
standardized.
It didn't have that.
So
Court
you
would
shouldn't
actually
have any
approve it.
problem
Now we have it that it would come back. to
Well, we should
Commissioner's
not have
Court.
any
All right,
problem.
if
For
there are
approval.
no other questions, they need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item 5, this is requesting, there are several options for the court here. Requesting approval for county's option to exercise the final year extension as provided under the requirements and terms of the pool of professional consultants that seek funding and assistance through federal, state agencies, and private sectors and other sources. If you don't approve that, then they have an option to authorize the advertising of the same project.
So, I'm sorry, I'm confused on this.
You can either approve the pool for another year, or if you don't want to do that and not approve it, you're not bound to, we can go and do this proposal again.
What are you recommending, Marty?
I don't know, I think what we need to know in order to make this decision is, does the court anticipate seeking sources on any types of grants or federal or private funds in this new, or if it would like to entertain maybe bringing more people into the pool to have more
Do
of
we have a list of what the pool consists of?
I would have to go into my device. Here we go. Just give me a second. I'm sure we attached, I don't know if you can view.
So, the absence or to either take action to exercise the extension?
Let me
Mark.
get in here, Commissioner, I'll tell you in just a moment. Here, let me give you the pool, I have it right here. It's just a little slow. Right now, the pool that we have is 5. There's 5 components. Those legislative services out of Donna, Austin Coupling and Reyes out of Austin, Arnold Mata Learnship out of FAR, Basaldu and Associates out of McAllen, Hollis Rutledge and Associates. We have 5. I'm sorry, let me turn this over here. Right now, we currently have 5 on the pool. DOS Legislative Services out of Donna, Austin Coupling and Reyes out of Austin, Arnold Mata Learnship out of FAR. I believe Mr. Basaldu is out of McAllen, Basaldu and Associates, I believe they're out of McAllen. Hollis Rutledge and Associates, which is here also, Valley-based.
So the recommendation is not to
You
request.
we certainly can update it, but I think we can learn from any, if we go out again, we certainly can learn being a little more specific on what we require from these vendors. And I think that it's always good to review them again and just make them better. So you have nothing to lose. I mean, people can still participate.
So you're suggesting we leave it open then?
I also suggest that you go out, it's always better to improve on what has the pool done for us, what things was it lacking, and let's make it a little more clear and open it up for more participation.
All right.
So I would recommend B.
Recommend what?
B.
5B?
Yes.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Now, I'm going to bring
For the record, there would be no action on 5A.
A or
A and
C.
C.
Or
On
C.
C, I was asking we use the same packet, but you know, given what I just gave you the reasons, I would rather bring back the packet for you to review because we want to improve it. So it will be no action on A and C.
All right, thank you.
On item 6, this is presentation for discussion, consideration, action in connection with, this is an item that will take no action at the
action, please.
request of our district attorney's office. They want to review it. Item 7, we're requesting, okay, wait a minute. No, we are going to take up 6. I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's 7, the one I'll ask for no action. This is action in connection with the mandatory inclusion of a document in the procurement packet for construction projects under both legal notices and bid or proposal pages titled Statement of Credentials or Qualifications and Reference Questionnaire, or a combination of both, with drafts attached herein so as to assist Hidalgo County in evaluating bidders and proposers as responsible in preparation of bids or proposal awards as other counties and cities currently do. We're asking, this is the 262 changed where there's a definition which incorporates direct and indirect cost to counties as it relates to the responsibility of a bidder, also its performance after the sale, and its general credentials as to being able to do the work for you. We have too many instances that I have shared with a conference I just went to last week of companies doing bad work and then reorganizing and coming back and bidding, and nothing to preclude them from doing so. But now we have an extra tool that will help us determine if this is a fly-by-night company or if it's done good work. Has it had any problems? Have there been any bond claims? And I really recommend this as a tool that the county needs. With today's economy, you have too many vendors lowballing their bids and then not being able to perform.
Okay.
Our proposals. So I would recommend, I will bring you the final document because it's going to be a merging of documents that I have researched out there, but I really recommend the court to endorse this option.
So moved.
It's on 6.
6.
All right, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And it's on number 7 that we're asking for no action until further notice.
Why no action?
Mr. Guerra wants an opportunity to review. I believe there's 2 jurisdictions right now that are using.
Mr. who?
Mr. Rene Guerra?
Yes.
In my research for a county, I have found that the monitor is the only source to comply with competitive bidding requirements as far as advertising. I have also researched.
I was wondering why Greg was here. Greg, if you want to make a statement, feel free to come up and talk into that.
Now, I know there's, for example, a city can ordain, can pass an ordinance which selects the vendor of advertising. A county doesn't have that option. Oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead, sir.
Hello, Judge and County Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
My name is Greg Windorf. This is my wife, Jan. We co-own the weekly
Morning.
newspaper, The Advance News. May I approach you, Judge, and hand?
Yes.
By the way, can you vote into your... Excellent.
I just want to speak briefly on number 7. There's a couple of things I think, I hate to use the term misrepresented, but it says on here that, well, if you look on 7 on Part B, where it says, it lays out the guidelines for what constitutes a legal newspaper. And the one that says daily newspaper, if you look in the Texas government code that I gave the judge a minute ago, there's no definition between weekly and daily newspaper.
At least weekly.
Right, at least weekly. And, I'm sure. No, I guess, I was curious how this came up because currently the Monitor gets about 99% of the county's legal publication business, and we get about maybe 1%. It started about 4 months ago. The county clerk's office called us and asked us how much we would charge the county to run the beer and liquor notices that people have to run in advance of getting a license.
If you don't mind picking up that microphone.
Okay. And it turned out that our costs were about 1/3 to 50% of what the daily charges. And, I don't know if this came up because a newspaper is worried that down the line, if more county departments find out that they can save more of their budget by running with a weekly as opposed to a daily, that they'll see more loss of revenue. I should also mention that in the county, there's actually 3 newspapers that are defined as a legal newspaper. There's the Monitor, there's ours, the Advance News Journal, and there's the Mission Progress Times. So you're not locked into just one newspaper. I guess, one point. So.
I assure the court that the only reason I put it on it was a project that we've been wanting to clarify for some time, only because of our statutory bidding requirements. Now, what I'm basing it on is Local Government Code 2051-44, the type of newspaper required, which is part of your backup in your packets. It says devote not less than 25% of its total column lineage to general interest items, be published at least once a week, be entered as a second-class postal matter in county where published, and have published regularly and continuously for at least 12 months before the governmental entity or representative publishes notice.
Are you saying that the Advance doesn't meet that, or?
They're saying they do, and that's why Mr.
Yeah,
Mr.
and are you saying they do?
Well, I have not seen whether they meet all these criteria. I couldn't tell you right now. Now, Mr. Guerra, I think I'm sorry. Mr. Guerra was prompted because the city of McAllen has also opted to advertise, but a city has the option has an option to ordain. It's like years ago, the city of Edinburgh ordinance was the daily review. A county doesn't have that option. I just need to be clear, and we then would have to put it out on a procurement process if Mr. Guerra does deem that there are more than one newspaper that qualify for our, and would be compliant. And it also has to be circulated countywide. So that was the only reason. There was no, I think he alluded to the fact that he thought maybe the newspaper itself had prompted this issue. No, not at all. I've never had any contact with the monitor about this. Now, I did do a lot of research as to how many departments require and have almost the same language, whether it be legal notices or publication of procurement notices. Almost the same language as to what newspaper qualifies to have it done.
Well, I know the
so that's why we're
monitor
taking no action. We're
the
going to
monitor has
explore.
wider circulation, but if the advance meets the criteria that's laid out by the Texas government code, then we can't exclude them.
Certainly not, and I don't intend to. That is why we're taking no action. At Mr. Guerra's request, he's going to review it, and I spoke about it to Ms. Josephine. Now, I also need to ask the county clerk, you say it's the beer license. I don't know if theirs requires anything different, but I know we have the budgetary requirements. We have the sheriff that has certain requirements. There were quite a few offices that do require notices, much like our procurement notices. But that was the only reason I was bringing it up.
All right.
And can I just be clear about one thing? Sure. I wasn't just sticking up for saying run them in the advance news, run them in the Mission Progress Times. I guess I was just defining the difference between weeklies and dailies and so forth, and say that, weeklies have a value and they can serve the counties, and we do serve the cities as well. Right. So that's all. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Item 8.
Yes, going on to 8. This is appointment and/or designation by Commissioners Court to select and assign an evaluation committee to evaluate and score the request for proposals received for the following projects. One is the placement, housing, detention, and supervision of Hidalgo County inmates. We had 5 requests and we had 2 submissions. We need a committee for that. And the second one would be the voluntary post-tax emergency air ambulance services. We had 5 requests and 1 submitter. Certainly on your first one, you would want to include the Sheriff's Department. I think they're going to be foremost. Purchasing would need to be involved. Now, I don't know who else you all want to appoint.
Someone from budget?
Okay. And I'll let Mr. Cruz make the decision as to who. Anybody else, the court?
Actually, Judge, Commissioners, if I may, I'd actually request that Sergio be the designee.
Okay.
All right.
And then the sheriff, I'm leaving it open because Commander Gonzalez told me today there may be several components from their office.
They want to appoint Sergio.
Now, on the second one, this is the voluntary post.
No, hang on.
To verify the part.
Oh, okay, let's approve that appointment.
So move.
Second.
Designate second.
Well, Sergio, somebody from purchasing,
And sheriff, and we'll let them
And the
designate
sheriff's office.
who's involved.
All 3.
Yes.
All right. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
The next one is the voluntary post-tax emergency air ambulance services on a payroll deduction basis. Like I said, we had 5 requests for packets and we had 1 submitter. Does the court wish to, I think, for sure purchasing would be involved. We're on the procurement end. And then someone from possibly the benefits department, although this is not a cafeteria 125, it is not designated, it's post-tax, it's totally very much like your legal services that we offer employees.
Marty, I thought you said you got 1 respondent on it.
We only had 1.
Are you going to
We sent to 5. This still needs to be evaluated on the submission. There's a lot of confusion out there with a lot of companies who offer a policy as opposed to offering a membership. So we need to discuss that and bring a report to the court. But is purchasing insufficient for the court? Does it wish to have anyone else? I know the county judge's office was instrumental in bringing up the idea. I don't know if you'd like to appoint anybody from your office, Judge.
Well, whatever you're recommending, Marty,
May I be at liberty to call on someone from your office?
certainly. I
Okay.
mean, I know Yolanda's here, or Bobby.
Okay, so if I may suggest purchasing and somebody from the county
All right.
judge's office. If I could have a vote?
So move.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 9 is requesting approval of a revision to the current Hidalgo County purchasing policies and procedures, specifically the addition of provision 7.0109, requiring that the purchasing department, before a bid is awarded, to search www.epls.gov to verify debarments so as to comply with the Texas Homeland Security State Administrative Agency monitoring report, noting the category of needs improvement in that area on the corrective action plan. I do need your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
Let me just tell the court that we have been doing this already. However, we became more specific that we are going to be printing the page off the website so as to confirm that on the day we checked, if that bidder was debarred, we have proof that it either was or wasn't. Item B1, the Precinct 2, presentation of the sole bid received from Royce Hauling as detailed in tabulation sheet contained herein, meeting all specifications and/or requirements for the request for bid titled Hauling Services for All Road Materials.
So moved.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Under C1, A, B, and C, we're asking no action through some error. That had already been approved back in May, and this was a duplicate. Item D is requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code 262-024A, and that is a professional service.
So move.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Presentation of a scoring grid for the purposes of ranking by Commissioners Court of the pool of architectural firms for the building and repairs and renovations of projects in Precinct 4. That was Dannenbaum at 96, VA at 94, and Alcocer Garcia and Associates at 92. Does the court wish to rank them in the order of their scores?
So move.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
An authority for purchasing to negotiate a professional architectural services contract with Dannenbaum Engineering.
So move.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
The next is approval to purchase one new 2013 or newer Chevrolet 1500 Silverado pickup through the county's membership through HGAC, Caldwell Country Chevrolet, in the amount of $18,490, which includes the $600 administration fee and delivery. And
Any
if
other
the-
comments before I allow Ms. Townsend to speak her mind?
No, I just wondered what project number 2012-162-OGG is.
Oh, that's just our buyer who's in charge of that
So
procurement.
this Chevrolet is not being bought because of any special project?
No, what it's.
No, we give it a project number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what's happening is that since we've engaged in multiple interlocal agreements between the City of Edinburgh, Drainage District Number 1, we've expanded our drainage. So we've actually have had the road and bridge and drainage work in conjunction with each other to be able to suffice and do those projects. And we do have it as a reimbursable, so it's we're revenue generating on those agreements. So we're needing that truck for those projects.
Okay, thanks.
And if you do take action, I don't know if you did on it, we have an option for the court to seek a sealed bid on the project if you so desire.
So move.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And therefore, no action on B. Going on to D, this is Elections Department. We're requesting exemption from competitive bidding requirements under Texas Local Government Code 262-024A7, an item that can be obtained from one source through the requisitions listed. This is an exemption that is required first.
So,
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Requesting approval of a sole source declaration for SOE Softwares with authority to purchase and enter into an agreement for the following softwares with license support and maintenance services detailed herein. For 1 and 2, Clarity Control Software Suite and licenses, and 2 is Clarity ENR Software and licenses. This provides web-based graphical presentation of election night results, including travel when necessary and as requested by the Elections Department as part of the Clarity Election Suite hosting and support agreement, in accordance with the guidelines set in our Hidalgo County travel policies and procedures. The amounts are detailed on the agenda item.
So move.
The first year's cost for the Clarity Control pricing service price is $49,980. The election night reporting pricing service price for the first year is $79,556. The total first year cost is $129,536. If I may
We
have
have a
action on
motion by
Part B.
Commissioner Palacios, Precinct 4, to approve. Have a second. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Agenda, the next item is I, the President for WIC. This is the sole bid received from Campbell Services as further detailed in tabulation sheet contained herein. This is for floor maintenance for all WIC clinics located in Hidalgo County. We're recommending award.
So move.
second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
On item 2, and there is a concern, this is the presentation of the sole response received for further detail and tabulation sheet contained herein, meeting all specifications and/or requirements for the purposes of award and approval of contracts for the following WIC projects. One of them is the lease of office space in the city of Edinburgh. That's with Dr. Ralph H. Jackson. The second one is the lease of office space in the city of Alton, and that's with Miguel L. Barbosa Jr. The concern was that legal counsel's formal review and approval of the contract was not attached. We have gotten approval up to the point that we needed legal descriptions. That is the only component missing. I think Mr. Crane can confirm that, so we should be able to move along with it, and we have sent him the legal notices this morning. Obviously, he was on his way to court.
That's correct.
If I may have action, subject to his final review of the legal description.
So move.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Going on to item F. This is requesting the following for Mid-Valley subdivision between Hidalgo County and Asago LLC, DBA Asago Construction. A, approval of final construction contract and the amount of $317,767. That's the first item for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
B is approval of the First Amendment to contract number 049. That is an increase in the sum of the sum to $327,181.08. And the reason for that is item 2. So I need action on B1.
Move for approval.
Second.
And those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Now, B2 is, and delete the outdated prevailing wage rates, Davis-Bacon, decision number 0209-2007, Texas 29, and replace with the current prevailing wage rates, Davis-Bacon, decision number Texas 12-0008, from January 6th of 2012, Texas 8, in the contract.
What are the figures? What's the outdated one and the current one?
Well, you're going to see the difference is from the $317,767 to the $327,181, about $10,000.
But to
Less
the
than 10.
employees?
No, it's not employees, it's what they're going to pay their wages. They have to follow the.
I understand, but how much are they going to get paid more now?
Judge, it's broken down.
It's broken down by
Categories
trades.
of employees
It's
by
token,
trade.
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item G1, this is Colonia Access Program Precinct 2, requesting approval of supplemental agreement 2 under Colonia Access Contract 023A between Hidalgo County and Millennium Engineers Group Incorporated to revise Attachment A to make part of the agreement, resulting in an increase of $4,605
So moved.
as an estimated amount.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item B is requesting approval of Amendment Number 4 to Work Authorization 3 with Millennium to replace Exhibit D as revised Exhibit D, resulting in an increase of $4,605.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Going on to H1, this is for Colonia Access Program Precinct 3. Approval of Everly Materials as subcontractor for the following Precinct 3 Border Colonia Access Program Round 3 projects. Science Utility Contractors Limited as submitted through project engineer Javier Hinojosa.
Move for approval.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
A and B would be the actual, it would be Munoz, A would be road and drainage construction for Munoz subdivision with Science Utility Contractors.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And B would road and drainage construction Havana subdivision with Science Utility Contractors.
Move for approval.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item I for Sheriff, recommending award and approval to issue purchase order for the sole bidder, Ron Hoover Companies of Donna, meeting all specifications or requirements for Hidalgo County Sheriff, purchase of 2 used 2007 or 2008 for new or motor homes for the Sheriff's Office.
So moved.
Check.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And the second one is approval of architect supplemental instructions number 1, funded from the allowance and contingency funds in the amount of $25,277 to contractor D. Wilson Construction in connection with the Sheriff's Office substation in Precinct 1.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 18 under open forum. First presenter is Fern McClarty.
Good afternoon. I have a phone call from someone from Hargill, and I've had someone call from south of Edinburgh, I guess it'd be southeast, that was taken out of Precinct 4 and now in Precinct 1. And Hargill said that the sunflowers and the weeds are as high as the truck, and no one is mowing, so your decision to move them obviously is not getting the people what they need over there. So maybe y'all need to check into it. I know the Precinct 1 Commissioner is not here right now. My second item, Ramon, I think last week you mentioned Dallas County, Harris County, Galveston. I could not understand if you said Casco or Costco on there in Tarrant County. If you said Castro, they do have open forum in the front. The rest of them I called, and they did state that they have have a form to fill out, and that they will call on the public or person before they take a vote or even before the meeting when they first start. And we pulled up most of the counties. The majority of them have them in the front. And I know that I have asked, and I'm still asking, and this is just a few of the emails and the people that have contacted me about open forum. And I remember last week, I think my commissioner stated that no one had been calling your office. Well, I found out why. Anyone that calls the judge's office is told, even if they leave the message, that they will have to speak to the chief administrator, and that she was in a meeting and that she will call them back. And I have gotten emails from the people that called and left the message and said, I guess hell will freeze over because I haven't received any phone calls. I also, Joseph, I was given an email address, and I read it back to the person 3 times, and they left a dot out. And so it took a little while to get that one fixed. So it's very easy to mislead or whatever, even if it's by mistake or whatever, that the public can't get you. I know that the people are calling, they're being told it stops at the door. It stops at that first phone call. So that's why you're not getting the messages that you say that no one is concerned about this. We're stopped at the store, mall, on the street. and ask why the open forum is not where it was so they can hear questions and know what's going on with the county. So I told them, well, not only call us and ask us, I said, call Ramon and Joseph and all the others. And I do believe that on the website at the county, which is, don't have it in front of me, www.co.hidalgo.tx.us, and make sure you put those dots in there. You will look on the front page and you can find the commissioners' phone numbers and their website. Please give them a call and let them know you want open forum back put in so that we're able to ask questions. And like I said, there's only a few counties that do not allow their people to speak. And like I say, it's always the taxpayer, whether it be in any of the entities or any of the 254 counties, it is the taxpayer that pays for everything. And today you see what time it is when you finally get through with county business. I do believe that and Edinburgh is my school district and it was wonderful, but y'all took about 15 minutes or so for that. So and that has nothing to do with county business. And again, like I said, we're asking questions from the public. We're asking people from that are employed by the county when we ask something. So you're shutting them up and closing the door in their face. So thank you.
All right, next presenter is Mr. Frank Travers.
Good morning, Judge. Thanks again for letting me speak to you.
Yes, sir.
It's a busy morning. I got to confess first, I was a little confused. It got to be 11:15, and we still hadn't got to the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. And I thought, well, I suppose they've just moved that to the end of the agenda after the owls are permitted to speak. I want just a brief update on the commuter rail. It hadn't been on your schedule here since late March and early April, and I was put on the board of directors with them. Back at that time, they came 3 weeks in a row asking for your approval of a little document which would give them courage to go further, to expand their scope into other cities. Do you recall they were rather seriously challenged as their claim that they could make the challenge which were presented in their original commission, which was to create a self-supporting rail commuter district. Very clear. They insisted perhaps this could be done while they were seriously challenged here. That really left as an open question. So rather than approval of that which they asked for, they got me. We've had one board meeting, and I'm not sure that they want to really address this basic question first, but they're constantly trying to go on. They've gone to Mercedes to get an agreement to cooperate with them. On terms of emails, we have a white paper that has been distributed, which supposedly is to be discussed at the board meeting this afternoon at 3 o'clock. It's a huge expansion of scope, including new taxing authority and a complete reorganization, far beyond the scope of anything it looks to me that that board should be looking at. I don't know how my thoughts are going to be received. I'm not sure that they're willing to listen yet. But I wanted to thank Commissioner Flores for dropping me into the middle of this situation. I will try to keep it very civil, Judge, as I always do, but I will have to express my differences of opinion. I'm seriously concerned we might be going in the wrong direction and perhaps making some serious mistakes and wasting a lot of time and effort. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, sir. Our final presenter is Mr. Joseph Palacios, Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Judge, this is just on the open forum issue. I have received 11 phone calls. We're in the process of communicating with all of them. Some of our staff are making themselves available, as well as myself, to address our position about open forum. We're obviously a major advocate of open forum. Also, the office number, just to reiterate, is 383-3112. We do make ourselves available to talk about any agenda item or potential item that should be coming up on Tuesday. But just wanted to state that for the record, that we did receive a total of 11.
All right. At this time, pursuant to 551, 071, 072, and 087, I would entertain a motion to proceed to executive session.
So moved.
Need a second? Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. We're now going to be in executive session. All right, we're back in open session. Mr. Garum, under item
20A.
20.
There's no action right now or nothing to report under real estate acquisition appropriation for same. Item 20B, pending and or potential litigation. There's no action at this time. That'll come back at a later date. Item 20C, claim of Mateo Rosales. Judge Commissioners, I'd like authority to make a settlement offer in the amount of $55 in settlement of this claim.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
Item D, claim of Linda Garza, the same. If I could have settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $999.87.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 20E, claim of AT&T, again, if I could have settlement authority in the amount of, so I can make a settlement offer of $1,529.76.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Item 20F, claim of Jose M. Rodriguez and Gonzalo Rodriguez. If I could have settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $13,500. If the court takes action for the 13.5, I do have a list of how we would break up the settlement.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay, for the record, as it pertains to claim of Jose M. Rodriguez and Gonzalo Rodriguez, the $13,500 would be split as follows. Jose M. Rodriguez and Law Office of Diana Aguilar, $4,712.87. McAllen Medical Center, $2,287.13. And then Gonzalo Rodriguez and Law Office of Diana Aguilar, $5,117.64. And then to McAllen Medical Center, $1,382.36. Item 20G, claim of Dinora Mariscal. Judge Commissioners, I'd like settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $450.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And item H, 20H, claim of Andres Lozano, like settlement authority to make an offer in the amount of $1,093.41.
Move to approve, Judge.
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
As it pertains to that claim, Judge Commissioners, it would, the settlement would go to State Farm Insurance Company. Item 20I, claim of Andy Taylor and Associates. Judge Commissioners, before you, in settlement to this claim, if the court would take action in the amount of $3,600.
Move to approve.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Claim of Brian Valadez, there is no action at this time. And 20K, EEOC charge 451-2012-00336, there is no action at this time.
All right, and on L?
And item 20L, the deliberation regarding the economic development negotiations, which would be Project Hardcore Tax Abatement, we would proceed as directed.
All right.
Move to adjourn, Judge.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.